So already, if you end up with a C, you'll know
I
why.
built in like 15 minutes for them to get in.
You got 9 here, there's 13 total.
I think they're, yeah, there's 13.
So we're waiting for the start.
Okay, that's fine.
You don't have to. I know. I didn't know that until recently. So I didn't, you know, I just got back to town, but I knew before I got here.
Is it Carrie or Carrie?
Carrie. Like whatever. Right. Exactly. She's way too. That's like pedestrian.
More minutes, you're gonna be on the desk. Someone's coming up like there's a wine bottle coming out of the first. It is great.
That's usually our English.
Mimosas. We'll have a break around 10:15. Maybe reconvene. Who knows?
Yeah. Or maybe I'll take notes and I'll say, I'll secretly put it in there when I have interactions.
Just redact the name of this student. She's angry at her husband.
She's gonna resume on it. She's gonna grade her.
Yes.
Because that's just not.
Well, it might be appropriate.
That's kind of thrown off.
I agree.
No, someone else.
Oh, really? We can have.
Did Mike read us?
Where do you
He
grade
grade
on?
Right now for elder protectors.
Stayed in and out of Elder Protective Services. Maybe guys. When I was at Social Services, I was the director there on interaction EPS.
Do you see?
Have you been to
How long you been there?
I was there during that.
Oh,
Oh, so I bumped into him. Having breakfast at
I
Einstein
worked at UNC.
about 2 weeks ago.
with Ramona. I was on the Social Service Advisory Committee. Did you do any staffing
Wow,
on
that's
that?
great.
Yeah, okay. Like I met you. Yeah.
So I got.
How's she doing?
Where's she at?
She's a teen at UNC.
I didn't know that. She told me she had like good things happening, but I didn't really get a chance to dig in what that was. Super cool. Her brother-in-law was in this. I've been in Florida for 2 months, so I'm missing some culture.
Good for her.
Yeah, I know. It's the same as
Just
after any.
Like who else is on that? Zero. Who else is next to you? Fundraising, I would work regional fundraising, vision fundraising. Those people all report all the way. That's a great question. How will make it better? And to know that, if it's
Here, my lady, I drink so much water now. Yeah. Oh, and down right now.
And then-
I have to come in 100 ounces a minute. I try really hard to make sure you're on.
I'll get you in the face.
Oh, she said she didn't.
Okay.
And then I reminded too. Yeah, you know, today I had one on my nerve.
Let's just say.
More this year than before you started.
There's a lot of shootings. You can always go on that.
She got it.
All right, well, I think we're getting started, yeah?
Yep,
All right. I know you have some recording buttons someone needs to push
I did.
on the mic as well.
Oh. Sorry, Josh.
Okay.
I feel you.
Oh, yeah.
It'll try someone because it's more about institutional
We're on, we're good?
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Good, good. So thank you, everybody, for your attention, and we'll get this rolling. So welcome to ULD 752, Developing and Nurturing Teams. We have a competing class next door, so we're going to try to be really loud, obnoxious, and bother them.
You won't have to worry about that.
Okay. I heard that about this group back here. Yeah, they also said you're really obnoxious with that as well. All right, so just to do some housekeeping stuff. So I got an email that said no lunch tomorrow, and you guys we're just gonna work through. All right, so.
I say we can bring food breaks. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was noticing you guys don't want me. You're right.
Can stay supposed to be done at
Okay,
4.
because I'll be hangry.
It'll be like
So,
a patty cake.
We're supposed to be done at 4.
yeah.
But because we're not having lunch, we should have.
We should.
Yes.
Is that gonna happen?
Possibly. Yeah, no, you will be.
You can do
Okay,
that. Food.
excellent.
Yeah, we'll be done at 3.
You gotta do that.
So, but we'll still take 15-minute break, one of the comments, get snacks if you need to. I'm gonna have to. So you guys will sit here and talk about yourself for 15 minutes. Well, I go get something to eat tomorrow, so just let you know that. So I just wanna make sure we're all on that. We may or may not go to 8:30 tonight. We'll see how things roll. This is gonna be, I feel weird because I've got people dialing in, I've got voice recorders, we're doing a recording and a streaming at the same time. This is not, if you guys, I walk too much, they're probably, if you're gonna try to watch this later, good luck. I'm gonna move around a lot, but I wanna do a lot of conversation. I don't wanna talk at you for 17 hours nonstop. Just my allergies won't allow that either. So, but I do wanna introduce myself. So I know some folks in the room, because I was in Las Vegas for 25 years. I actually moved here to go to college in OB, got married, had kids, the whole 9 yards, look up, it's been 25 years later. So just a bit about me. We're gonna talk a lot about team interaction. I know that you all think, did you all do strengths finders in a previous class?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so from a DISC standpoint, I'm a high ID. From Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP/J. Color code BRY, blue, red, yellow. I'm a relator, belief, input, self-assurance learner on the strengths. The leadership DNA, I'm benevolent visionary. That's my favorite. It makes me, I feel like some kind of cosmic entity at that point. Benevolent visionary. I wanted to put that on my business cards, but the county manager won't let it go. And then for the Enneagram, the one I had you all do for this class, I am a very high 3, very high 8. You'll see what that means tomorrow. I am a husband. I had to update this. So I've been married to my wife 25 years this next week, actually. I am a grandfather. So,
Holy cow!
Yeah, so we got a 2-year-old, almost 2.5-year-old at home with us there in Florida. So I sound like I'm really a lot older than I am. I retired and moved to Florida with the grandkids. But so my daughter's 25, my son's 17. We're out in Orlando, Florida. I spent 16 years here with Clark County. I was the director of social services and Department of Family Services for a while. If we get into a place where, and I do this for leadership academies and stuff, people ask me, well, like, how'd you get to where you were? How are you director, you know, in your mid-30s? And I don't have a roadmap. It just happened. So I rely heavily on my faith and my friends. I believe a lot in social capital and relationships. Spent 5 years with some tech startups. So when I was at University of ULD here doing my undergrad in criminal justice, I was working for a guy who eventually sold his source code to Expedia. And the day he sold, he came and said, hey, give us your keys. Here's your final paychecks. No one's got a job tomorrow. So I said, hey, I don't like that kind of atmosphere. Let me go work for the government where things are a little more stable. So I started my government career. And then I decided that it would be a really good idea at the age of 42 to leave a retirement-based local government director job and go launch another technology company in Florida. So been doing some of that for the last 2 years, doing some consulting as well. That brings me back in town here. Did nonprofit work for a while as well, and that's kind of my background in case you're wondering, who is this guy, why is he in front of us, and what's he bringing to the table. So, I know a little bit about you guys. So just real quick, your name, where you work now, and where you want to be in 5 years. Just so I get an idea of the different places around the room. So Imani, let's start with you. Let's just kind of snake it around the room.
So I'm Imani. I work for Elder Protective Services as a social worker.
Okay.
And I don't see myself in Elder Protective Services in 5 years. I can definitely say that. I'll tell you where I don't see myself.
Okay.
But I maybe see myself as a supervisor somewhere. I'm not sure for what agency, but probably still in government.
Social service sector, health and
Yes.
human services, somewhere? Okay.
Come on, so do it. Come on.
So, I've done the introduction so many times.
We're one of the copy and paste.
So hi, I'm Upshow, and I work here at the College of Urban Affairs, and I'm the communication director. So
Gotcha.
PR.
Okay.
And then I've never liked questions like that.
Okay.
And sorry.
This is why we have a reputation, right?
I'm like, we're too deep.
Come on, Option.
Do you want to take over the world in the next 5 years, or do you just want to be comfortable?
I want to be happy. Is that
Leave it there.
I just want to be
That's it.
happy with what I'm doing, to make a difference, and but I don't.
Help the faith-based community.
Sometimes.
Nice.
That was a real answer.
So I'm just setting the tone. We're going to keep it real for the rest of the session. Yeah, no, that's good.
I'm so happy to graduate.
So what's standing between you all and finish?
And some
You.
That's
You guys just gave me way more power than I did. Okay.
Make it a short assignment for our final grade.
Okay,
We're happy.
I'll be really honest. I have to do something with writing.
Okay. Okay. A book?
That's where you want to see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, it has to be writing. I have to go back to my.
Reaching your opinion.
Okay. That's good. That's good. I just had a friend that went back, mid-40s, went back, got a secondary degree, and just had her first short story published. So you can get it done. That's cool. Yeah, I like your answer, actually, that you want to make a difference and be happy where you are. So it doesn't have to be positional. So that's a very good answer. Brooke.
So my name is Brooke Stream. I work for the city of Henderson. I've been there for about 3.5 years now, and before that I was in county for 18. So in 5 years, I don't know if I see myself doing anything different professionally. Like, I think I'm exactly where I want to be on a professional basis. I'm not sure that I really want to promote or anything. I want to be a little less tired than I am now. Really, really tired. Irish, my son will be 8, and I'm sure he'll sleep through the night. I'm so done having kids. And I think so I have about 8 years left in PERS, and so I'm thinking I'll be kind of hopefully starting to maybe do a little consulting on the side and learning, because I see that as my next.
Gotcha. So
My next
in
phase.
5 years, you should at least be planning your second act.
Exactly.
Right? Okay,
I'll be
good.
planning my second act.
Okay.
And
Right.
then.
Go, Brooke.
You
Uh,
should talk.
That's a good point.
Touche.
Alan Diskin, I'm the new executive director of the American Red Cross here in Las Vegas.
Mimosas on Alan's.
Deal. It's an amazing organization. It's massive. What they do is inspiring. I mean, you know, storytelling, it's kind of funny because that's kind of what we all do in the nonprofit world. We storytell. And it makes people excited. They storytell like nobody's business. They've got things, you know, they tell you things of people's lives that were saved. You know?
Yeah.
My previous world, we educated kids, financial literacy, which is great, but this is so much more meaningful. It's a very different run nonprofit.
Yeah.
It's unlike anything you all have ever experienced. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm too new to understand how it works.
So you're being thrown into a brand new model for yourself. So this is a new experience for you. Okay, good. So 5 years.
I have said since this point in my career, I want to be able to use what I've learned and apply it to help. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's consulting. I don't know if that's finding a nonprofit that needs the knowledge that comes with being with an organization, being in the nonprofit world for 30 years. I don't know that this uses that.
Gotcha.
And if it doesn't, I'll find some place that does. I'm hoping it does.
That's good.
I'm 5 weeks on the job. So I don't know if it does or doesn't.
I got you. That's good. Craig.
Hello, sir. Craig Rosen. I work for the Desert Research Institute. I'm the Community Engagement and Professional Development Administrator.
Okay.
And I love going into work every day. So
That's awesome.
I'm able to dream and innovate and do anything that I want to do in my profession right now. I love it. So, gosh, in 5 years, I want to be in the same place, but because I'm getting a great paycheck, raises every year. I mean, who can complain, right?
You don't hiring Craig?
We actually are. We actually are. But I also see myself doing even more. I've been talking for quite a while about political run in some fashion. So
All right.
look at Senator
All
Burch.
right.
Getting engaged, man.
Look
I
out.
was in class with that guy.
I'll be there. I'll say, look, I was pre-exploratory committee. I knew Craig was going to Carrie.
I'll start with
Carrie Beato, I work for the Las Vegas Municipal Court, the Assistant to the Court Administrator. Actually considering a second master's degree in social work. Specifically because, that's crazy. This work and the work that I've been doing, I'm really passionate about bringing leadership skills to girls. And I'm also I want to educate, but I don't want to be a teacher, and I want to explore bringing continuing education classes to mental health
Awesome.
through the form of like Renee Brown's Daring Leadership
Yeah.
Training, Girls Leadership by Rachel Simmons, those kinds of organizations. Nobody's offering that here in Las Vegas right now.
That's awesome. Darcy.
Alright, why don't I follow you? Marie. So I'm Darcy, I work for the city of Las Vegas, and I guess I'll just follow Karen and go work for her organization and try to bring leadership to the girls in the community.
Look at all the stuff that's happening. Like, we're like 5 minutes in the class, like life change. We got change the world. Awesome.
Okay, I'm Andrea. I work as a program manager at 3 Square. I love it. In 5 years, I see myself as a director or some type of C-level executive at an organization in town. I would like to work in the realm of homeless youth. That's definitely where my heart is. Food insecurity is a really big deal, but homeless youth is definitely where I'd like to be.
Thoughts on the study that just came out that said anywhere from 10 to 30% of college students are food insecure. Your thoughts on that?
That's a very real thing. I think that food insecurity doesn't have a face like people might think it does. And so, unfortunately, that's a very real thing. I get to work in the realm of children, so it's really unfortunate, but also we have a lot of support related. My thoughts are from 18 to senior, you sometimes get forgotten about. And so that's where, like, I really want to try to pay attention.
There's a pantry here on site at ULD, in case anybody
Yeah.
didn't know that. Because food insecurity in college years is
It's
a real thing. Dwayne Stoneberger, I also work at 3 Square Food Bank. I will take over the world now.
All right, Pinky. Let's go.
I still might see myself in home relief. That is a very big deal to me, but I do see it in the more larger picture sense of working on the core issues that have gotten individuals into food insecurity, because it is a symptom of a much larger.
Gotcha. I love the fork tat.
She has a knife.
You take our word very
And use a spoon.
We do have a spoon actually.
So I see.
We're taking applications.
I was gonna say that,
And whatever.
we won't cover team markings and dynamic. I think that's an indicator we probably need to put on. So we do have 2 people. We have Josh and Nikki joining in via the stream. So
Who's Josh?
I don't think we have a
Josh,
Josh.
I don't know if you're in the wrong room.
He is.
He's the tech guy.
Oh, never mind, Josh. But Nikki's in the group.
Hi, Nikki.
What's up, Nikki? So Nikki, yes, I said I'm just like support, but you're a person.
That's right. What is his goals?
All right, Nikki. So, where do you work and where do you see yourself in 5 years? Feel free to use emojis.
Everything's funny.
It is.
Sorry, we're listening.
We can't hear.
Is Nikki typing? Oh, I should pull my phone out because I'm usually good at texting. What? For answers.
Insert.
So Nikki, can you hear me? We'll always come back around. Okay, well, maybe she can't hear. So we'll just keep moving. Oh, there you go. Okay, so Nikki, where do you work? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? Just give me a real short answer. Your group says that's impossible to do, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so Associate Vice President for Marketing Communications, ULD. Oh, that's why you can't give a short answer. Okay. All right, what do you want to do in 5 years? Take over the world, change the face of communications? What do you want to do? Still knows where she is. All right. To get into this, what I'm going to try to avoid is just giving you a lot of memes and pithy sayings and things that overgeneralizations that you may get in leadership seminars. I do want to try to focus this in. This will be the piece where I may, and I told Nikki, good luck when I follow me on the PowerPoint. There may be things I just breeze through. I'd rather spend time talking to you all, and you'll see why in a minute. But I do want to cover some of the academic lens of the leadership piece of it all, and then we'll do a lot of time talking about the team lens as well. University of Chicago has a impact development program, and they say the 5 things you need to be able to lead or you need to learn from your experiences. So I want to collectively be able to learn. And by the way, this will be in Canvas for you all afterwards, the whole thing. But I'd rather us be able to talk about some shared experience because we can learn from each other. Again, I think one of the things that I've been fortunate enough is to have great resources available to me along the way in my career to pull on those. You have to be able to make decisions. We'll talk a little bit about that. Understanding sources of power and influence within your organization. Now let's talk about the different power dynamic and this top-down federal-run approach of a nonprofit versus local. I, quite frankly, fought here 24 hours before I was supposed to be here because of local politics dynamics around a contract. You're going to plan to come out here and help smooth some things over. So you need to understand those sources of power, where you are, some of the landmines. Negotiating. This is something that very few programs teach and talk on. I'm not going to talk about it because it's not germane to this subject outside of negotiating with your team members and how things get done. That's definitely something you'll tackle, and then ethics and values. I know there's courses on those things as well. Any thoughts on these? What do you find personally most challenging out of that list for you individually? So we all have natural strengths and weaknesses. Some people are very intuitive and they can sense out informal leaders and they can see power bases. Other people trip over them blindly and can damage their careers. Some people hate the idea of negotiating. It gives them hives. That's you? Okay.
I would say negotiating. That would be the most challenging.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Anything up here that naturally or that is, how about this? What's a natural strength of yours? What's something that comes very natural to you out of this list?
Learning from experience.
Making decisions, learning from experience. Sometimes the decisions you make become the experience you learn from, right? Okay, that's good. Okay. I have to remind myself to look over to Tiffany. In regard to where we are in, how many folks, just a reminder, quick show of hands, nonprofit, okay, quasi-governmental, okay, and then state or local government. Okay, so we've got good people across the mix. In your nonprofit world, what are the power bases that you need to be cognizant of in your nonprofit world specifically?
Traditional nonprofit should probably be your board.
Your executive
Yeah, executives, your high-level donors.
Okay.
partner.
Partners.
We have a couple of very strong federally funded programs, so there's a lot that is dictated by that as well.
Gotcha. Okay, so understanding that. So from a local state government standpoint, so we'll keep ULD kind of separate as we'll come to that one. But from a government standpoint, state, local, what are some of your power and influences that you need to be aware of inside your organizations?
I think for me, it's our council and our manager's office. And I think we're kind of in an interesting time because we have a new mayor that just came on last year, and it's really shifted the face of the city. And as a, well, not necessarily as a result, but we recently had a big turnover in our top leadership. So our city manager's gone, our assistant city manager's gone, and so it's interesting. The people that were out of power have now swung to power, and it's a really kind of interesting and fascinating dynamic. I think it's probably true in most organizations, right?
Yeah.
Like people fall out of power, then eventually they get back on top, and it's all about like relationships and how you continue to kind of navigate that and maybe not align yourself with one or another.
That don't over align yourself.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Carrie? Anything from your point of the world?
Well, I think because I work in municipal, municipal court is affiliated with the city of Las Vegas,
Sure.
but they're separate.
Right.
So there's a very opportunistic relationship. We have a city council that's going through a shift as well, and I have a theory that city managers last through 2 terms of their boards because they will choose you. You might make it through a second round, but then when you get the 3rd board in, they're like, "I'm here to change things because I ran out of performance platform," so you get kicked out.
Right.
But then we also have the judges who are elected, and what I've observed is our council has to at least pretend to get along for 2 weeks. Our judges don't even have to talk to each other. They can go into their own courtrooms. They don't even have to coordinate how they rule on anything because there's this thing called judicial discretion.
They're all factors.
So my boss has 2 boards that he has to rule. The judges and the city council, and the 2 are both elected dual boards. So it's kind of interesting. I think if you had told me sources of power would be skills that I would have at this point, I would do that. But I think that's only something you can get after you've been in an organization.
Yeah.
So it's just a really interesting.
Much Darcy.
Well, I work in the city of Las Vegas, so pretty much the same as council and mayor, but influence that our council gets from industry folks. I think that there's a lot of power there. Like my position is to oversee the marijuana program for the city of Las Vegas.
So you come across a lot of lobbyists.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we're trying to do, public safety or whatever, we're trying to follow these rules. And there's a lot of money in marijuana and there's a lot of influence. And we'll go to the council. Next thing I know, I'm getting requests for these really absurd things that we just don't feel are justified, but who has the power?
There they are. There you go.
And along the enforcement side, you can just
Okay.
so it's kind of like, what?
So for the ULD folks, you may feel maybe be weird, like they speak out against organization where you're here and from.
No, I do that.
You do that constantly, so good. Okay. So what are the unique power sources you need to be aware of in the university system that would differ maybe from the other things?
Oh, different?
Yeah. Are there any things different about this kind of environment? Nick, you can chime in.
I mean, students are important, parents, but donors, government leaders, board of regents. Yeah, there's all, I mean, citizens, the sources of power. I mean, they constantly are changing. You think that the administration might have a lot of power, but then they might not, and the faculty have a lot of power. And sometimes students have a lot of power, so it's ever changing.
Okay.
So it makes it very interesting to work here.
That's good. So how do you keep your pulse on, so we've got election cycles. So we've got live natural cycles. We've got, they're influenced by sometimes the business cycles in the community. We've got new products that's been improved, it's making influence. We have people elected. We've got a whole new city that's trying to form on the east side. You've got a lot of stuff going on. They can impact your nonprofits, your donors. How do you keep tabs on how those things are influencing your organization person? How do you just keep tabs on that?
Well, when I say where the funding source is going to be coming from, it's going to question the ethics and values, but because it is a federally funded, a lot of our stuff is federally funded, but that's not a question. That's the ethics and values are there. So it's that they're the bottom line, they're the power. If that's not going to get funded because of X, Y, and Z, then that's the way that we have to base most of it.
Do you spend energy and time doing lobbying at the federal level? You're part of a cohort that's in around food
Oh, yeah. We do it definitely for here locally. We go speak on the Hill for systems and issues that speak near and dear to Nevada, but also, of course, we are part of much larger umbrellas of individuals that go on and also lobby.
And they said just yes to all of your answers. All right, so that was kind of to get you warmed up and think through some of the challenges around leadership. So I want to talk about you as a leader now. So the pre-work, we had some look at team stuff. We had stages of formation. We had 5 dysfunctions of the team, and then we had the trust worksheet. So talk to me about the stages and dysfunctions. Everybody have a chance to look through. I think there was only a few that hadn't got stuff submitted. And just for record, I'll let you still submit it by end of day tomorrow. As kids, I know we have people flying, traveling and stuff, and I'm really have compassion on that. So trust me. So if you can just get it done, that'd be good. But in the reading, the stages, was everybody pretty familiar with the stages of team formation, the norming, storming? Okay. All right. And then the 5 dysfunctions of the team. I just kind of want to march through that for just half a second. All right, so 2 reasons why I wanted to bring this up. I think reading is really important to stay on top of things as a professional, and unless you speed read to go through the number of books that my counterpart has on his desk next door, that's a 1.5 years worth of reading there on that table. I'm a big believer in, you guys never heard of Sound, you're not doing a plug for them, just to say, they distill books down to 5 pages, give you the key points, and I can knock this out in an hour. And it's so if you guys haven't seen these before, they're subscription based. And there's a couple of companies out there that do this. These are subscription based, that give you a summary, that tell you what you're going to learn, and they just start knocking it out, which is really key. Then if I really love then I'll go buy the full book and kind of digest it. But there's a business book that you got to read on New York Times list every week, right? This is how you kind of get through them. So really talking through this parable, and they go through and talk about the underachievement, how they go about lighting the fire. The members of the cohesive team behavior there. So, and this is interesting in looking at the trust assessments that came in. But a cohesive team, obviously, they'll trust one another. They engage in unfiltered conflict around ideas. How many people have an atmosphere in your work area that you can have unfiltered conversation in a room, work through it, and then leave, and you're all kind of the same bed? Okay, that's very good. That's very good. Is that with your leadership or your peers? Peers. All right. So how many? How many folks? So we'll walk through. I'll come back and answer that question. So they can commit to decisions and plans of action. How many folks are part of? I heard this from a community partner I was with earlier today. How many folks have a part of your culture in your organization where it seems like you're talking about the same issue over and over, circles back every 6 months, but you never make, it's like the treadmill on. Anybody got those?
Yeah.
Okay. You said yes. They can hold one another accountable for delivering on plans. So once you do make a decision, and if you are fortunate enough to have unfiltered conversation, and you can plan through things, and you get that strategic plan, does it just go on a shelf, or how many folks, body language, nods, heads, hands, whatever, actually march through those things and have organizations that have accountability as a part of the culture? Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Okay. You say sometimes. Does it depend on? Okay, they said they're doing that now. So does it depend on? Sometimes does it depend on the person? Does it depend? Is it inside the organization you've got a strong leader that does, and you have some that don't, or does it depend on the work unit? How does that play out?
Kind of depends on the issue and maybe the leader.
Okay.
Whatever that issue may be.
You're in local government. How many departments in Henderson got at least 15 departments? I guess.
About 12 probably.
Okay.
12 departments. I think it's hit and miss, right? I think that you have pockets of or departments where they're accountable and they deliver results, and then I think there are others who are kind of floundering and they have action plans and they just never get there.
And so a really good team focused on collective results as well. So if you look at your team at a department level, inside a large organization with 10 or 11 other departments, is there an idea toward collective action to really improve Henderson? Or inside you've got outreach and education problems, you've got fundraising, you've got marketing, you've got different, is there a source of competition aside where sometimes it can get skewed? How's that look for you all? And we're going to say, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the healthiest, how healthy is my organization around collective action? We're all on the same team, headed the same way. 3 being the sometimes. 1 being never.
4 points.
All right.
Can you have that?
Yeah,
You gave it that, so it's
There you
Nikki says it feels like there are 3. All right.
I think our department, the planning department.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that as a whole city.
What would you rate on city?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. How would you rank local governments working together for the good of the community?
Not Las Vegas. The jurisdiction boundaries.
Yeah.
Park County, like, always has a competition with the city of Las Vegas, right?
Love-hate relationship right there.
Yeah, and so there's always this, and So if you want to achieve something together as an urban leader, I think it's really hard to put all those jurisdictions
And we're gonna,
together.
yeah,
I'm going to say that organizationally, if you take the electeds out of it, I think as organizations, the city manager's offices work really well with each other. I think about the court system, like municipal court works really closely with justice and district. So I want to say the electeds are there because they're talking heads and charismatic or not, and they get sound bites. But when it comes to like the grindy, boring, get the stuff done every day, I think organizations, local government does work pretty well.
You said works well with each other, but he asked works well for the greater good of the community.
And I think they work good when they're working against something together. Like
Yes.
if they're working against like a bill in the legislature or trying to get home.
when there's a common enemy.
When there's a common enemy, I think they work collaboratively really well together. But I don't know, I mean, I think like when I was in social service, I don't know, the SNRPC, I don't think that everybody was working together collectively toward the same goal of
Hold on.
homelessness, right? And they're still not, because 10 years later, it's still, so I
I'm
think
in
that when it's
Florida,
a common
and I
enemy,
get comments
they're
from
great.
folks like the city of Las Vegas and Clark County are going at it like never before. I'm in Florida and hearing this from people. I just say that to just kind of think about there's different levels of team, right? You have your work groups, you have your tiger teams, your project teams, your organizational things, and then you have where you're part of national initiatives. Like we all come together as a national congress of hunger advocates, and we go and we team on these types of things. But there are parts and places where that just does not happen. And so know that, because invariably you can be working in this community as a nonprofit or some other entity, and you have to work with all those partners, and those are players and powers, things that can get in your way and trip you up. Dysfunction number one, absence of trust. We did the trust rating. Yes.
The paper?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that one jumped at me the most.
Okay.
Like, can pinpoint the times when people, like when I'm working with people, we're not vulnerable enough,
Yeah.
or yeah, that's all.
Okay. How do you all feel absence of trust? How important do you feel trust is to building a team?
Exactly.
Okay. How much conscious energy do we put in being trustworthy as leaders?
Yeah, I'm not like,
I
I'm
would
gonna
hope
walk
so.
into this room, making sure they trust me when I leave. No, I mean, you walk in with a bunch of other intentions that display trust. That
Are you aware when trust is at risk with some partners that you're working with? Right. What are some of the ways that you can rebuild trust when you're working with a fractured team? Okay. Transparency to what degree? Acknowledging that there's a lack of trust in the room, or just transparency around data issues, communication?
I think you can address what you feel that the lack of trust is about without saying there's a lack of trust here. Because that also doesn't mean trust. If somebody says, I see that you don't trust me, but like that's not going to help. But if I say, I realize that this happened, and this is our feelings around it, this is unfortunate, here's what we're gonna do to fix that, like that you're rebuilding the trust that.
So being intentional, that's what I'm talking about, being very intentional about rebuilding trust where you create or think. You're kind of doing that leadership gut check that feels like there may be a fracture here, and how do you go and be intentional about repairing some of that? Okay. How many folks have had to work on the team situation where there was actually zero level of trust? Have you been on a super dysfunctional team where nobody trusted anybody? Okay. All right, what was that like?
Yeah, well, it's actually very innovative.
Oh.
In my first master's program, we had a team project that we had to work on.
Okay.
And we came together, we assigned parts and pieces, and when we came back, everybody did everything because we felt that the person was going to do it. So, It was a big that,
That's awesome.
yes.
Okay.
Which is why you guys have that phone, get on phone. We got our pieces, and we didn't let the other one do it.
Yeah.
I actually wrote that like high school students should be taught these things in that reflection, because I thought, wow, all of these things to overcome it, like I didn't know all of these things, so try. But honestly, I think these things should be taught in high school.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a study that was out. I can't remember it for the sake of academic efficacy. I should probably quote who it is, but but there's a study out that showed millennials often predominantly confuse grouping with teaming. They think anytime they're in a group, they're teaming or they're doing teamwork. So I think that's a really good point. I think we have to be really intentional as leaders, helping the employees that are coming to organizations that are in their mid-20s and those that will be coming up now that are approaching 17, 18, the Gen Zs, who think being a part of a movement is teaming. And proximity or engagement does not equal teamwork, as you can kind of see, right? So those are things that we may have to be intentional as leaders about teaching and talking through and doing some coaching around them. These things aren't really covered a lot. So dysfunction number 2, fear of conflict. All right, so we're a good team, but when things go bad, no one puts it on the table in the room. But when the meeting's over, there's 3 different meetings in the parking lot.
Yeah.
How many people have been or in a situation like that? Okay. All right. Well, so you have trust factor, but what is it that won't let you put the conflict on the table? How do you combat that? What are some of the ways you overcome that?
I don't know if we're going to overcome it. There's particular executives of ours that nobody wants to be completely honest in front of. And
Okay.
so that's why the separate conversations happen after we have.
So the trust is peer trust, not vertical trust.
Yes, yes.
Gotcha.
Because the conversations happen to actively make changes.
But we're all aware of it,
Yeah.
and then we're also all aware that nobody has totally talked about what they
Gotcha.
needed to in a particular yeah.
So what does that lead to? Because I have my idea.
Nothing, it's just a waste of time to have the one meeting and then.
So I'm gonna guess.
Because I feel the changes come from your parking lot meeting.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna guess there are pre-meetings. There's meetings about what's gonna happen in the meeting, and there's the meeting, and there's the post-meeting and stuff.
There isn't a lot of pre-meetings, everybody's just on the same level of understanding, but that's not what's shared in that one.
So there is when we talk about corporate culture,
Yeah.
dive into that. So there's this shared realization amongst the peer group that just let the talking heads come in and say, and we're gonna go away and do our own, get it done.
We have the same ultimate thoughts.
Sure.
But the way we get to them is not.
Okay. Okay. Lack of commitment. And this will typically come from lack of accountability. So the power dynamic of people on the team, so you have, this is the group, this is the group, right? 5 people on the team, 3 do the work, 1 floats, 1 just no-shows. How many folks, from an organizational standpoint, let's look at your whole organization, is that part of culture in any one of your organizations where it's okay, the floaters don't get called out and the no-shows very rarely get called out? Okay.
It's really tough. You know, I was at CSN and I had that. This was part of the problem.
Okay.
The floater was the person in charge. Floats in, floats out.
Okay.
Never really delivers. Everyone's in silos. You know, we're trying to get it done. I don't get approval. You know.
So what's that do? What kind of what's the culture? What's that create?
Oh, just distrust.
Okay.
You know, no lack of commitment to the company. No shared vision.
People begin to take care of self and cover CYA, right?
That's exactly what they do.
All right. So going through those, right? So you can definitely work toward consensus and try to put some certainty on the table. We'll talk a little bit, and there's a video that Mancini puts out. We'll walk through that a little bit later as well to kind of talk about how you look at making sure you don't onboard people that are floaters and no-showers. Because you don't want to bring that into it. Work really hard to get your team performing. You work through all the stages. You bring somebody in, and it sends a message to your high performers about what that means. So there's an old adage that you're as the leader of a team, organization, you're the high water mark. No one's ever going to achieve more than you demonstrate. Right? You kind of set the threshold and pace. So the guy floats in and out, doesn't follow through. What's to say to the rest of the organization? After a while, why am I busting my back? Right? I'll float in, float out, and spend my energy elsewhere. And you lose a lot of talent that way. You lose a lot of talent that way. So dysfunction 4, the avoidance of accountability. My favorite avoidance of accountability process in local government is one person messes up, and what happens? Memo goes out to the whole organization. Everybody's like, why I gotta read this memo? Everybody knows who it was, right? Just go talk to that person. I mean, has it happened to you in the last 6 months? Okay, all right.
Does HR allow that? Come on. Or you encourage that?
No, HR doesn't generally. Like, those are the things that they just keep internal.
Yeah.
Because if they consulted with HR, they would start
They would.
holding people accountable.
Because HR is a built-in accountability structure, and I don't want to do that. I want to deal with that. That's hard. That's the hard part of being a leader.
And I think that, so often when we promote people, I mean, I see that as one of the biggest problems with supervisors and managers, the ability to have those tough conversations and hold people accountable. And we promote you because you're the best social worker, that it's a completely different skill set between, case managing clients and helping them self-sufficiency versus managing. And we don't give them the tools. I mean, in government, we're notorious for that. We give people tools to be able to. I'm assuming nonprofit is just the same in terms of just go. You were awesome at what you did. Just go lead it.
Best worker gets the promotion, and then we wonder why things maybe don't magically work out. Because you were so awesome over here.
Right.
So the avoidance of accountability. Some of the ways you overcome that certainly are public discussion around goals and standards. So that helps you make sure you're on the same team. At least that way, even if you're if you're naturally conflict avoidant. There are some personality types and skill sets that are. How do you develop a way to stretch yourself to get into that, but also a public standard that peers are going to hold each other accountable to. One way to overcome that, simple and regular progress reviews. I mean, this is something that, to Brooke's point, that we don't set a lot of those early promote supervisors up for, how to come in, and we're not talking about waiting until that midpoint or annual review that we all do for pay raises or whatever. We're talking the weekly, monthly, how are you doing, checking in. In the corporate world, where we've got sales funnel goals, if I'm not checking in with somebody weekly, looking at their dashboard and talking about numbers, and saying, hey, how many conversions you getting? We're done. But we don't find that space sometimes when we get, especially in the helping spaces, when we get into health and human services as a sector, we tend to lose some of those things. And we live by anecdote rather than goal. And that can be detrimental. So getting into that things. And then team rewards. There's a lot of information and study out there. Zappos makes a ton of money off selling their corporate culture approach and building a good teaming thing. You can't reproduce those everywhere, but certainly getting to a space where if you have a team that is working together hard to achieve something, you don't reward them. They don't get some sort of recognition or if they have to rely only on their intrinsic satisfaction, it's going to be hard to do that time and time again. I know that was something Brooke always helped me with when we worked together, to have that space to make sure, hey, celebrate results. Because naturally I'm on to the next thing. I'm like, that's cool, we hit it now, let's look ahead.
That is the biggest struggle.
Yeah, right?
Like, we don't celebrate that.
Yeah.
I think this has to be positive. What's next?
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
no,
that's
we
good.
actually need to take a minute to celebrate what that is, because it's so easy to be like, what's next?
Alan, you made a good point earlier. You said no one tells stories like the Red Cross does. And so despite some of the structural challenge, that story can keep the organization running, right?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of us, when we get into helping and doing, that stuff, that's manna for us.
And that
right?
good feeling covers up for
It does.
what may be structurally flawed.
Sure, but there's that engine may not be tuned right, man. They're pouring good gas in that thing with the stories, so it just keeps it running. And that's something that I learned along the hard way, not stopping to celebrate and let the team know that we're achieving, going in the right direction. So those things are really important. So having a shared language and shared story, we'll talk about that in culture, is really critical, and it'll help you overcome some things. It may sometimes also cover things up that need to come to the surface, but they're very powerful.
I think that's what happens in higher ed. At least that's what I noticed. Asha, you and I have talked about it, and at CSN, student achievement is so much a part of why we're there doing it, even though it's a quasi-governmental agency that sometimes silos itself to a detriment. You tend to overlook it because product is so important.
Right.
So you never gets addressed. A lot of these are common dysfunctions in higher ed that I've seen.
Right.
And then the ones I don't see, we hear UNLV all the public stuff.
Right.
It's not fair. And it might be true.
So looking into how do you overcome then, or I'm making these business decisions, in attention to results. And some of that's tied into accountability, some of the celebration, but making sure that you do public declarations, that you do results-based rewards. How many are in unionized environments? I know we are not. How many folks are in unionized environments where, okay, so just in City of Las Vegas, right? Teamsters or
Well,
City of Las Vegas Employees Association, right?
we have them in my position.
Okay, right. Your organizations are.
Yes.
So a lot of people around you just show up to work for 360 days a year and get the same raise as someone that shows up and produces it, right? And so that can be that's a real dynamic in some places. It's not results based in some of those. So make sure you look at that and find ways to create. And in nonprofits where you're always fundraising is always a thing, right? You're always up against that fundraising. How do you create non-monetary reward systems that allow people to feel recognized for what they do? What are some of the creative incentive packages maybe that folks have? Anybody getting tuition reimbursement from me here? Okay, so that'll keep people in the organization. What are some other things? Maybe there are incentive packages that help people feel recognized and rewarded.
I just gave the student thermos for doing free work. So,
Was it filled with food?
No, but I was like, you know this. Thank you for doing a good job.
Was it swag? Did it have a logo on it?
Yeah, that was great. I'll go. Does that count? Because I'm like, I can't pay her.
Right.
But she was really happy. So I don't know. It's like something where you reward their good work too. It's not like a material thing, but
Sure.
I think people should be thanked along the way. Like,
Right.
don't thank me later after I finished it. Thank me. And I think that's what
That
the absence of thanking
Sure.
people and
Well,
gratitude.
that frequent ongoing review, that's where you weekly, you're giving it, hey, you're really progressing well, you're on the right track. Rather than waiting to the end of the 6-month project to go, you hit the mark or you did hit the mark. So, but swag actually, what's that?
That's not in a sales environment, but like if you have a team working on a project and you're checking where you at now every week. I think for me, I would be like, oh my God, let me get through this, leave me alone.
Yeah, quick dashboard. I'll tell you, so, and somebody want to reference the sales, but again, 20 years in nonprofit and local government. So everything from $15 million IBM implementation in the county to just Tiger Team running policy procedures. I think those dashboard check-ins are really important. And they can be as simple as team lead, come in, sit down. How's the team doing? What are your struggles? What can I as a leader, what obstacles are you coming up against that I can get out of your way? Because my cardinal rule for my team is always one thing, no surprises. Because as a appointed official, I can wind up in the front of the paper. So no surprises. If something's going bad, tell me now, tell me early. You even think the one's going bad, tell me. So no surprises, but you get into a place where you build a culture. And so it's not an hour meeting to walk through everything you did. It's just quick dashboard checks. You get this in project management, if you're doing technical or other types of projects. There's a dashboard, here's 20 things that get done. 5 are red, 5 are yellow, and the other 10 are green. Tell them about the ones that are red. Why are they trending negatively? What's going on? And those are just dashboard things that even it can be as simple as our fundraising goals for the year. Here's the things we're going to do. We're trending well or we're off course. We're in the second quarter, and we've only got first quarter numbers for fundraising. What are we going to do? Let's not wait till we get to the fourth quarter and go, oh my gosh, we're $1 million off mark. Are we going to, how are we going to catch up? So I would say those types of frequent check-ins, the more frequently you do, the more focused they can be, and they don't have to be a big, deep dive. If you wait too long, then they become deep dive and they feel obtrusive. Now, I'll also say that's my view of the world, and that's my work style, which is a lot more, you're professional, you're educated, I trust you to do a job, do it. Just tell me how you're doing. I'm not a micromanager. If you have a micromanager who's doing those every week too deep, it can become. So again, I'll frame that. Everything I say, personalized, that's why I give you that first slide. So you kind of get a framework for what I'm speaking. All right, so that's the 5 dysfunctions. What was, was this the first time that you folks have read through this material? Some people have gone through it a couple times before, probably over the years. What are your thoughts around it in general? Was it helpful to review it? You guys don't have to watch the scroll, sorry.
I forgot to look it up. Is the story, this Decision Tech, is that a real company?
No, it's a fable.
Oh, okay.
So what he did was,
it was really interesting. I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, no, he took a
it.
composite of people he had consulted with through and kind of said, hey, these are the general things. All right, so you all did this. I will say if I had to, and I was hoping to get them the time to actually run them through and give you a composite so that you all could see, because I asked you to all be transparent and give communication. This is how you thought people had rated you at one time in the past or not. I think I only ever had 2 checks fall anywhere in the breach of trust, maybe 3 or 4 in this column. Most people were in these 2 columns. The one where we had the most kind of marks where there could be lack maybe of trust coming on was around decision making and around discretion. The confidentiality, permission, and care, who's sharing information with who, those are some places where people had some cause for lack of trust. That was the predominant 2 rating fields in those things. Anything jump out to you all as you did that rating? As you went through that exercise, of anything kind of jumped out?
I think the openness one is tricky.
Okay.
Because complete disclosure is not always perfect. And so it's like, you can't have a toddler, I think.
Gotcha.
Easter Bunny exists. So, yeah, that one I'm like, I don't know about openness.
Okay.
I call it word vomit, women oversharing with you. So that one I'm like, I disagree with the level of appropriateness.
Okay.
So I would rather trust someone who knows how to share.
With some tact.
Tact, a little bit of discretion.
Okay.
I mean, complete openness without discretion.
Gotcha. I think, again, this is a blend, right? So you're going to look through these things. So that's good feedback and good input. The openness factor, though, around disclosure of, look, when the recession hit, social service was directly funded off property tax, and at that point, we were just right behind Detroit. We were quickly overtaking them for foreclosures. So we went from a $183 million budget down to $123 million. $60 million got cut in one budget cycle, which meant I was laying people off. And I tried to have full open disclosure. Look, here's the budget, here's projections from these. We're working with HR. We're going to position freezes. We're going to do everything we can. And I'm telling you weeks in advance. If none of these strategies work, here's worst case scenario. I'm going to tell you up front. There may be some of you in this room that aren't here. So if you find opportunities, let me know, and I hope you get there. Because I didn't want to have to walk anybody out the door. So that would be a place where that wasn't popular. I did use some tech, right? I didn't tell them, and I'm already looking at these individuals, right? So you still is appropriate. I'm thinking to myself, oh, I've been waiting to get to him. I can do that. But you don't share those things, right? But this idea of I'm not sitting on valuable information, so that because in a lack of in crisis, the most important resource you have is what? Communication of information. Absolutely. When it doesn't or it's not presented, what happens? People make up that void is going to get filled by you or somebody else. And if it gets filled with poor or bad information, and you already have some trust issues or some other things in the organization, it's just going to spill over and make it that much.
Before you leave there,
Yeah, please.
one of the things I'm looking back at what I submitted because it was 2 days ago and I don't remember. Like, and I have 3 screens available here. So it's really obvious which one I rated myself lower, and that's the availability piece. And I think this this is the cause of that. And I don't know how I'm holding up a phone for Nikki who can't see.
Craig's addicted to his phone, Nikki. We're about to do an intervention.
Well, I don't know if I definitely am not the
No,
only
you're
one,
not.
all right?
meetings all the time, where I'm like,
right.
pay attention
So
to- But I feel too.
in every aspect of my life, it's terrible. But how do we? I think that's just a piece that I'm struggling with.
Yeah, so what are we doing around that? We now we would go in and it was respectful to put your phone face down. Then we came up with phones that have edges so we can see it. Now we have watches where I can just glance and I can get my message. I don't even have to break eye contact hardly. And I totally just checked in for my flight while you guys were talking. So that's what I was doing.
We're always thinking of what's not
Right.
here.
Right.
There's just no way to turn that off.
Yeah. So when it's appropriate, and those are places you have to guide because it can build a culture of, yeah, Craig's here, but he's never really here. And how does that? What's the value created? Because I'm going to interpret that action one way or another. As a subordinate, I'm going to interpret that some kind of way. And typically, most people take it personal. They don't step back and go, well, you know what, I'm really watching Craig, and it's kind of like that with everybody. They walk out of the office going, Craig doesn't like me, doesn't value me, and they put it on themselves. Craig's got it out for me. I'm going to tell people at the lunchroom table. And it starts spiraling off. And those are real things that happen. So I guess you don't have to have the open door policy. Everybody can drop in at any time because that's not appropriate. You have to have time and space to do your work and confidential conversations, those types of things. You can make yourself available. I think professors have office hours for a reason. Schedule time, you're there and you're open. But when you're in a conversation with somebody, man, just be fully present. That's really what that's talking about. It's not unfettered access 24/7. And that's a dangerous, unhealthy thing, and we've gotten ourselves there as professionals. I guarantee you, up till last year, I never used a do not disturb function on my phone. Part of it was because the settings I was in, especially child welfare, and 2 a.m. I'm checking my phone, right? And those things are unhealthy. But where you can set boundaries so that you have time off, so that when you do have to be present, you can be present. And just find ways to create priority for yourself. And those are just things you kind of have to work through and on. But it does send a message. It does. It may sound old-fashioned, but like I got a 25-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son, and phones aren't at my dinner table. And we sit down every night together when I'm home. And there's no phones because we're here as a team, in a unit. We're gonna do family business together, and there's no distraction allowed in that space. Now, as soon as the first person cleans that table, that plate off, man, what I missed. But that's this kind of space, and I don't want to bring parental stuff into organizational leadership, but that was just some thoughts.
Well, I just struggle with it because, right, everybody has their phone. Like, just successful teams just put tech away. But then their minds aren't. Their minds are on tech still.
There are, so the team I work with on the technology side, nobody's in the same city. We've got 17 staff in 17 different cities, and we all remote in. We live on Skype, do team meetings and those types of things. But yeah, there's a general rule. When you're on the video call, nothing else. Like, we're blocking time. But you got to keep stuff short then, so people have time. You know, if a meeting's 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes. They get in, talk about things, get off, and go do their work. If it's a 2-hour meeting where it's droning, I mean, yeah, at that point you're doing what we used to call the BlackBerry prayer. You're looking at the table. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, those are balances. But yeah, I think at some point there needs to be that, and it can be challenging. If you're in communications, you need to be in constant contact. That's the thing. But most of the time, in most of our situations, if we don't answer that text in the last 10 minutes of this class tonight, no one's going to die. So what's the priority? And So
the workplace has changed quite a bit over the past, I would say 3 decades, but I think because technology has been used as a tool, it has made us appear that communication is more rapid, which means decisions and outcomes should also be more rapid. Hey, you didn't respond. I'll get a text message. Did you check your email?
20 minutes later.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it.
right.
I mean, I was in the bathroom.
So
How's that sound?
do you have communication standards that, hey, unless it's a priority, emails be responded to within 12 to 24 hours? Do you have communication standards? Because then there's a solid, clear expectation for the whole agency. Because if anything, we got in trouble for communicating with local government at one point. Because if somebody answers a text from me, guess what? They're writing that down. That's overtime. That's
Wow.
I answered that text. Does that equal 3 hours callback, Mr. Burch? Those things are there.
Dang.
So
How do we reset that expectation? Even 12 to 24 hours. Listen, when you're getting 70 emails in a day, or if you're out at meetings all day yesterday, you got to catch up from that day and the next day. I mean,
there's some
how
really
do we
good
get into this immediate mode?
Because everything's immediate. So I know, like boomers and Xers, and I'll speak for the Xers. We love to talk about millennials. How they want everything right now. We do the same thing. Communication. I want to answer yes. I mean, I texted you 5 minutes ago. Like, where's my decision? But that allows us only to do this. One of the most dysfunctional organizations I ever had the pleasure of stepping into and doing work with was UMC. They ran their entire organization as their emergency room. Everything was critical, and everything got triaged, and there was no tomorrow. And so a big piece of their business is their trauma center. But everything got ran like that. Their accounting department got ran like that. And it created huge, and that's why they were $60 million in debt every year. 20 million was just building oversight. They weren't doing things right because everything was in constant crisis mode. Because we're a hospital, that was their response. No. That was something that had to be undone. And then you don't get in overnight, you can't get out of it. No. You got to be very intentional about slow walking yourself out of that. And I speak again because I want to ratchet to what's right now, and I want to do it right now. And you can't do that in cultural change. That's other lessons learned. You got slow incremental change to get your way out of those things. But you have to get communication standards is one of the things we had to do. We had to say, look, unless it is good you're communicating about a case, but not just because you got home at 8:30 and you go, oh yeah, I forgot to tell someone about this, let me text them. Because then that creates an overtime compensation situation. If it's not in this rubric of conversation, these 3 things on this is considered critical immediate communication, we can wait till tomorrow. And we had to enforce that, which means I was writing up really good employees who thought they were doing the right thing because they were doing it at midnight without authorization. And we had to send messages like, so there's a balance, and that's not always the best way either, but that was different because there were union contracts involved, right?
That's also an industry thing, the nonprofit world. We're doing that at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning,
right?
Because that's what we do.
Right.
That's our job.
Right, yeah. So, but if you're never off, you're never off. You know, I'll tell you so the 1-minute manager, if you're doing something like that, there's a lot of stuff out there about ruling your inbox, don't let your inbox rule you. There's a lot of tools and tricks and things out there that you should really do. Don't live and die by your inbox. And actually, there's studies out that show you it makes you a lot more ineffective. If you think you're being effective by responding quickly, you're not.
They say you're supposed to check it twice a day.
If you're supposed to
Twice
box your
a
time.
day. Yeah, right.
You're supposed to box your time. Morning and afternoon,
That's right.
check in, check out, and that's it.
That's right.
Well, my favorite is email is someone else's to-do list for you. So I have like urgent, needs response this week, needs response. And then if something blows up, then I'm because I have to leave my email on all the time. It's annoying, but that's how I manage it. See where am I tomorrow? Most of the time, I can get away with it. And I work with a lot. So, yes, I can a little bit. Let's see if I can push. If I push and nothing happens, I'm like, cool, and go on.
Yeah, that's a really real challenge. And again, it's not going to slow down. The communication is not going to slow down. It's going to get more rapid. We'll no longer have to glance at phones. In 5 more years, the organization will be issuing you wearables. And it won't be watches. It'll be, things on your arm that are.
But you would agree that cuts down on real honest productivity and quality of life.
I think so, yeah.
You can't be strapped to your business and business outcomes. Even as a program manager, that's where I started my career. I mean, I was always, tinkering, doing, in those days you would mail a letter and you get it back. And then it's a response, I just got, but we've compressed this so much that I don't think it functionally helps. I mean, no one falls apart.
I think it's got to be a conversation amongst your team. So let's talk about. We have industry, we have societal stuff we're not going to be able to change. We've got maybe some industry stuff we can't change in this room. You even have your high organization things you can't change in this room. What are you doing though for your teams? I would say if these are struggles, are you having conversations about what's realistic communication for us as in our area? What's realistic? And let's talk through that. How are we going to show each other value, be present when we're present? How are we going to give each other space to really, because if I'm sending you the 1 a.m. text, because I'm just getting to it, and that's on my to-do list, and I can't go to sleep unless everything's crossed off, am I doing you a favor? No, I'm actually dragging you into my stuff. I'm really not thinking about you. I'm just thinking about my list. I'm not thinking about the team, how it impacts the team. And maybe those are some conversations you can get through about shared standards. But look, just please, nothing after midnight. If you don't get done by midnight, maybe kick off 6 a.m. I'm good. But give me an off time. And those are just conversations you can have.
If you have the trust.
If you have the trust, and that may be a place where if you can't have that trust, start building with that. Well, look, I'll live up to my piece. Unless something's on fire physically or someo's under the,
for real.
Real, like literally on fire, I'm not going to call you. And stick to that. Catch yourself.
I think I'm having a challenge with the word teams.
Okay.
Because I'm not on one team. I'm on probably 100 different teams.
Yes.
Right? And so if each of those teams are trying to communicate, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. And how do you make yourself available to all the teams at all the time? And so I'm having a challenge.
But I think that's the problem, is we don't want to be available to all of these all the time.
Then you can't build the trust, though, with your
You
team.
have to set that standard. You have to figure out what's works for you, and that's always be available.
It doesn't sound like it's working.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's totally working. I mean, it's okay.
The only person in this room that's got more screens than Craig right now is me. It's totally working, Craig.
These are off right now.
I'm
focusing on my
Craig Central Command.
But here's the thing. But that's a good point. Look, if somehow you're navigating and this isn't really a critical issue for you, focus on the critical things that are. But feel free to tinker and make change, because if it's not working, the worst thing you can do is make a change and then not work, and you're still where you are. So I would just encourage you there to look at those incremental changes. But part of it may be your approach. If you're responsible for multiple teams, you set the culture as a director for multiple teams, and they're just doing what you. If you're always flitting, they're trying to respond, and they're going to find themselves flitting. So just kind of get there, and which leads us then kind of to this whole adage: between leadership and management. Right? Management may be the one that sets the policy of communication, but leadership is slightly different. We're going to fly through some of this. Nikki, this is where I'm totally going to lose you because I'm just going to start flying through stuff. I'll try to call you into what slide we learn about. Because some of the other stuff is background elementary stuff for you all. But really, leadership being influencing others by accomplishing tasks, providing purpose, direction, inspiration. Management is giving direction and supervision. And it's a lot of times, people come into this space will confuse that, right? People are like, so you have that positional power, just straight supervision types of things. That's not leadership, and that's not what this whole program is about. There's enough internal organizational training for you all in your organizations about how to supervise your people, hopefully, that will get you there. Most of us live somewhere right in the middle between visionary leadership and tactical leadership on the continuum, which is good. That's a healthy balance. What's the problem with someone who's too tactical, who they live in the weeds as a leader? What dysfunction can that cause? Okay. but we hit our goals every month.
But who's setting those goals?
Right.
If you don't have the.
And where are your goals getting?
The organization developed them back in 1995, and we've even hit them since,
Right.
right?
Right, we've always done it that way.
Right, we've always done it that way.
Right.
That's a hallmark of a tactical leader, but we're doing what we've always done very well. Problem is, the world's moved faster sometimes, right? Because you haven't re-examined your big picture. Now, what's the detriment of someone who lives way over here?
You don't
You know, actually happening daily stuff.
Okay.
You don't know what it takes to get that done.
Yeah.
Too
You don't
high.
employ the people that could help you get it done. So you're not building your team with the expertise that you.
Okay.
Because you're just up there and you're good at talking.
Yeah.
Talking.
So this is where you live. This is the guy holding the chains on the side. I'm using a lot of football now. Sorry. This is the guy holding the chains on the sideline on the field, like right up next to it. And this is the guy that's in the blimp, like 50,000 feet over the game, right? You can kind of see the things moving on the field, but not paying attention to too much. So most of us actually live a little bit more tactical than we do toward vision. So, and that can be good or be bad depending on where you are in your organization and what you're trying to do. Because you also need draws. I'll say this. Sometimes you need to be intentional about trying to find some folks that live here because organizational gravity will always pull you back down this way. It's not natural for organizations. It's the law of entropy. A closed system begins to absorb it on itself. So you need sometimes things that will pull you forward, just not so far that they leave orbit and they're not even the same, cosmos as you. So it's important to kind of look at that, and that's why I think people tend to shake down there. We'll go through this. It's all beyond. These are some of the academic background studies, traits that separate leaders from non-leaders. This is some of the stuff where a leader is born, they developed, et cetera, et cetera. Then we all have learned by this point, leadership is a developable skill set. You need to go through it. You need to be adaptable to situations, alert to your social environment, cooperative, decisive, dependable, self-confident. And then those are traits, but then you have skill sets, fluent in speaking, organized, persuasive, social skills. So this stuff came out, actually this is from 1974, so it's funny how many of the EI, the emotional intelligence things are listed up here 30 years before people were talking about the emotional intelligence. What if you had to pick one trait up there that is your strong suit, what would it be? Look at the menu, just give me one. Okay. Okay. Darcy, what do you got for me? Pick one thing off the menu. What's your strong suit? Okay. Okay. Alan, what's the weakest one for you?
The traits or the skill?
Either. You can pick off the dessert menu or the main course.
Diplomatic and tactful.
How's that work for you?
I'm pretty sure that what I'm thinking is probably the right way to do it, and I'm too wedded to that to kind of let others kind of
Fail.
Yeah, you're right. No, I've done it. I already know. No, it's not going to work. Yeah.
That's good. What happens? Anybody ever watch, what's the Henderson channel for government? You guys have one?
Yeah.
Okay. They stream meetings on Facebook or anything?
They stream meetings, yes.
Okay. Anybody ever watch a local government council meeting? Okay. Start of the meeting, end of the meeting, public comment, right? People come up, I think you should vote this way, I think you should vote that way. Do you really get the feeling that most of those electors are really taking the input seriously in the moment? They've already gone through, they staffed the agenda 2 days before the meeting. They know which way they're voting. They've already got that stuff made up. Sometimes, if we operate in that space, staff can feel like that. Like, you're just giving me a courtesy hearing, but you're really not listening. And that can work against us in some places as well. But it is really hard for your leader to know that something has a high propensity to fail, and you've got a high propensity to succeed in your way. let them go do it. So how do you combat that?
Actually listen.
Yeah. Actually, listen.
Okay.
Yeah, actually listen and be willing to let maybe even portions of it happen.
There you go.
Maybe you can even be going to the same result, but there's portions of it that make it exercise. I have a really good problem with the tolerate of stress.
Tolerance of stress. Oh.
It doesn't say tolerant.
Yeah.
It's tolerate.
Yeah, but I tried really hard to quote the source directly. So.
You know what's weird though?
Yeah.
Because
No,
that would
it
be
is.
my weakest point, but I was like, but it's not proper.
So the whole thing is
I'm
lost.
also not tolerant.
I am not. I maybe it is you can tolerate. No, that wouldn't. I am not tolerant of.
Oh.
Not a word we use anymore, but maybe it's the same.
Yeah.
Tolerant.
I am so looking at my Scrabble dictionary.
Yeah.
From 1974.
On all of your screens, could you?
Because you got one open? Okay. But so that's a really good point. And thank you, by the way, for letting me kind of not just go through slides. But really, I think we learn better from each other. So the idea is this. Putting rails as the leader. Saying, look, I need this to happen. This has to be the outcome. And I think that this is the path you should take. I will be happy if you get to the result and you stay inside these rails I'm giving you. I'm going to give you some space to try the things in there and improve themselves. That takes risk. That means you have to tolerate stress. But it's kind of those ideas where if someone's dependable and they've proven themselves, give them a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it falls on you, right? If they fail. So those are some spaces and things we have to wrestle with. And it can be counterintuitive depending on our behavior, what type of personality profile we have. I'm a high, I just showed that. Anybody does the DISC profile? Okay, so I'm a very high ID. I can be very personable and I can be charming if I need to be persuasive, but when the stuff hits the fan, my D will click over very quickly, very abruptly, and it can feel like to my staff, a pendulum swing, like, wow, yesterday he was like, we're all on this journey together, we can all get there however we get there. Today he's like, why weren't the results there? And it can feel disparate to folks. And I have to know that about myself and say, okay, how do I make sure people understand that this pendulum's about to swing? By letting them know that there's a clock on them and the clock's coming due so they can be aware of those things. So some of the behavior theories, and this is the academic piece. So Ohio State University put these out. There's other better looks at it. But I like the grid piece. Kind of shows you how concerned are you about production versus your concern for people. So if you're high concern for people, but low concern for production, you get a country club organization where we love everybody, and I really don't know what we produce, but man, we love kids and dogs, and we can raise money around it, right? And you can probably all right now in your head, you're identifying the nonprofit. Right now, do you think it's overfunded? It has that. You're all picturing.
Writing it down, I'm not.
If you are too concerned for production with no concern for people, you become the Henry Ford 1901 production model, and you have a very high turnover rate. Turnover rate for entry-level case managers at the SNAP office for Nevada State Welfare is 67%. Wow. Yeah.
Hey, I was here for listening.
See? I told you. Why?
Because it was terrible.
Because it sucked, right?
Actually, they made me get through the academy.
Yeah. Their academy turnover rate is like 25% within the first few weeks. That's why they always have an academy going, because they know, yep. Why? Because this is all they care about. How many apps did you get done? We don't care about you as an individual. We really care about our clients, it feels sometimes. Get the apps done. Because when I go to legislative session, all I do is say, we processed 10,000 SNAP apps, and we got this amount of money. We provided this amount of money and food, nutrition, and benefits to people. That's it.
No outcome.
Yes.
No outcomes associated.
That's EPS too.
Right.
That's my
So, right, so it creates it where you're already, hey, so they've got a talented person looking to lead. So, but then how do you get there? If again, if you're not concerned with anything at all, you just got you have an organization that's in complete poverty. If you get up to where you're concerned with people and you're concerned, that's high performing. That's a real team management approach. People have a common stake. They know what they're driving for. They feel like they're driving together. You know these things, autocratic versus democratic. I do want to show you a continuum of behavior. And I show you these things. This is from Princess Hall, a 2002 study, but I show these things. So sometimes just you self-identify. Where am I? What's that mean for my team? Or where are my team members? And oh, that's why they do that. So you have a consultative authority drive that goes toward democratic, which goes anything taking too far, even if it's good, it becomes a detriment. So you have the laissez-faire, where it's like whatever goes, goes. And then you have the it only happens our way and no other way. Then you have somewhere in the middle where it's consultative and some democratic. Where you get, where you create some employee-centered leadership, trying to get into this consultative place where the manager presents ideas and invites questions. That's kind of the Rails approach. Creating some tentative decisions that are subject to change. And then sometimes you have to do this. And these are situational. You can create a great culture, but there are times where you've got power dynamics like boards and outside constituencies and students where you have to say, all input will be heard and all input will be used. You can't constantly struggle to make everybody happy or we'll never make decisions and then we get paralyzed in our organizations. Transactional leaders versus transformational leaders. Transactional are just really good at exchanging promises for rewards, performance. Transformational really lives and breathes the mission and objectives of the organization. So if, and again, they're both good, and it depends on the setting and what your mission, your goals, what sector you're in. How many folks think that you work for a transformation? This is all, by the way, the recording's on me. They can't see you, so you can answer. These raise hands. Anybody think they work for a transformational leader? Okay. All right. There is a book by Jim Collins called Level 5 Leadership. They pulled a piece out. It started off as a Harvard Business Review article, and then got blown into a full-blown book. But Level 5 being on a scale of 1 to 5. Right? So what are your top tier types of behaviors? Personal humility, personal will are two of the big kind of categories there. But the ability to demonstrate compelling modesty, shunning public education, never boastful, acting with quiet, calm determination, channels ambition as a company, not self, looking to mirror, not looking out the window, they look into the mirror. So how am I leading this organization? What are we doing? A constant self-reflection. I didn't put up all the assessments I did because they're there. I do them because every few years I need to get a reassessment, and sometimes find some new tools. But just a reminder, hey, what are the things that if I'm not paying attention to them, could become detriments based on how I tend to naturally lead and do things. Your personal will, do you demonstrate unwavering resolve to do whatever must be done to produce best long-term results, no matter how. So those are things, and then looking out the window, not in the mirror, when it comes for credit. So looking out the window to go, there's all my staff on my team, they're the ones that get the credit, not looking in the mirror and doing a job, right? Which again can definitely suck energy from a team. Those things are all there for you to read. Here's my favorite. In doing lit review for all of this, least preferred coworker scale. This is actually predictive. It really is an easy science tool, but it's predictive. Leaders who, when they're interviewed, describe their least preferred coworker and their highest preferred coworker with still with pleasant, smart language are high LPC, are considered more people-oriented. When people use negative language about even the worst of their coworkers, they're less people-oriented and more task-oriented, and that creates typically have a lower culture rating from their peers and their agencies. So it all kind of plays in here. about leadership, situational leadership. But so least productive coworker. Least preferred coworker, rather. You all have the picture? You all have the picture? Sometimes you're a really productive person because no one wants to deal with them, and they can just go heads down and crank stuff out, right? But no one wants to. So then you throw the meat to them like the tiger in the cage, and you don't want to be with them. You just kind of throw the task over to them, and let them do it. But so everybody can have their least preferred coworker picture. All right. One word check-in. Give me one word to describe your least preferred coworker.
Right.
Dang.
That's on video. All right.
You know, that version is no.
I feel like there's a lot of emotion behind there. Like he's a hugger on top of it.
I'm with you.
See? Right. So it's not the fact that the individual's sweaty, it's that they're a hugger, so their boundary respect for other people's not there. Okay. See, I knew there was more to it than that. Not the inability to think of others, or there's some lack of self-awareness, perhaps. All right. How many people say your least preferred coworker has an absence of self-awareness? They just don't recognize. Okay. Yeah. The most difficult people have ever had to work with are the ones that are the least self-aware, especially those in leadership, those in structural authority positions that were not self-aware, that were making life hell for everybody around them, and they had no idea. They literally thought that if they were going to rename the company building after somebody, it would be them. Like they really thought they were doing that great. No self-awareness. When you have to sit down and say, I know you've been here 25 years, I know no one's ever had the chutzpah to tell you this before, but you just had your staff goes home at night crying, they don't like you, you're mean, you're rude, you're curt, and you have 7 times the amount of customer complaints than anybody else in this organization, and you're supposed to be a leader. Like, those are hard conversations. But those things have to happen because people who don't have self-awareness, there's only one way they're going to ever become aware, and that's from the outside, right? So those can be really hard things to deal with. There's subtle ways, gift baskets for Christmas, deodorant, the shirts that wiggle with the moisture, like some dry fit shirts. There's some subtle things you can do.
Poor Nikki missed that comment.
What? All right. So there are actual academic studies, and this is how your leadership styles vary in the situation and engineering the job fit. This is done back in the 60s, but this has actually been held on to, and Harvard continues to do studies on it and has validated. It's the idea that you can go through with rubrics and say, look, here's your leadership position power. Are you strong or weak inside your formal? Are you a line staff? Are you a leader? Is the task very structured or unstructured? We're going to give out. How's the relationship between the leaders and the member? If it is, and you kind of roll through this, and you can see how likely you are to get outcome on the backside. Path goal. This stuff is in there for you guys. Leadership member exchange. Oh, here's my second favorite. Who in here is a process person? Like you, there is a distinct process rubric that you walk through for things. Anybody? Okay, carry a little bit. All right. Here's your decision-making rubric. This is the thing. You really can. You can go through, and the questions, by the way, are in the PowerPoint. You'll have it, but you literally can walk through and ask yourself, is there a likely quality requirement that there's one solution likely to be more rational than another? Like, is this a black and white thing? Is there sufficient information to make a decision? And you can plug it through this, and you can come out with the type of situational leadership decision that's right in the moment. People put a lot of time to study this stuff. This is about the most antithetical thing to me as possible, but I include it in there because we need to value our analysts, the people who are very analytical, and this can help.
Well, I just got passed over for a promotion from an analyst, so kind of bitter about it.
Sorry.
So the hilarious thing is clearly I'm not that, but I do have like decision trees on like, do I care or do I not care? Given X, Y, and Z, I don't care, so then I move on because
That's awesome. So you have your own internal rubric
Yeah,
for decision
like,
making.
okay,
That's good.
this, okay.
So situational leadership. There's the Blanchard model with Kersey. They talk about there's a delegating style, which lets your members, the group decide what to do. There's a participating style. They ask the members of the group what to do. You still make the final decision. There's a selling style that makes a decision but explains the reason. Like we're going to go this way, even though I know that may not be the popular way, but here's why. And then there's the telling. And that's just the old school, we're doing it this way because I said so. And sometimes those are there, right? In a crisis situation, telling is maybe the appropriate situational style. We really don't have the time or resources to go through this. This is where we're gonna have to go. And sometimes the people will fail there in crisis because they can't. They've not exercised enough of that telling, where they don't want to take the decision on the shoulders solely, completely, and squarely. And that can be something maybe that you need to work on. Because the time will come, we're going to have to do that. You can't always delegate your way out of situations. Part of what we need to recognize in doing situational leadership is their acceptance and readiness there to do it. So this will help you if you know that you are typically, let's just say, a telling leader, but you want to work on becoming more delegating. You can look and say, okay, what's the task behavior? Is there going to require a high amount of guidance on it or a low amount of guidance? Are the people willing or unwilling to do the job? So if they're willing to do the job and it doesn't require a lot of guidance, that's a place that's maybe really safe for you to start delegating and build some trust with the team and do those things. So this can be just a real simple rubric, easy decision-making place where you kind of go, look, is this a place? And you can use that to help, because you may not, maybe just telling people straight out the things you struggle with, this will tell you when you maybe need to step in, tell them. Because you have the subject matter expertise, say, this is the exact way it has to be done, you just need to tell them. When to apply the leadership model, about the delegating, just like selling and telling. It talks about what risks are there, when you're able or insecure and willing to take those risks. You can flow through that. Charismatic leadership theory, this has probably been over talked, and quite frankly, too often hired. In their typical interview and onboarding processes, don't really assess the hard skill. Sometimes they own, they'll let I've seen it year over year in different organizations where the people who do the job, but they're just not good at selling in the interview process. They get passed over because we don't look at a comprehensive onboarding strategy, and that also deflates your teams, and it works antithetically against the culture you're trying to build sometimes organizations. So know, love, value, and work with your HR people to what's it like. How to improve leadership skills. Maybe easy, but sometimes you got to think like a leader, even when you're not in a position of leadership position yet. Identify, explain, and decide what you're going to do about it. Use the appropriate style. Pick the right situations. Build your power base. This does not mean Game of Thrones. This does not mean Survivor. But it does mean building your relational power. So everybody's familiar with the term social capital. It's 15 years old by now. Really important, right? Have a savings account relationally with people so you can make withdrawals when you need to. Because the people who are working against you, they have those relationships. So you need to make sure those people, the same funding pool you're going after, they have those relationships. You have to be able to leverage those things. Exercise better judgment. Look, sometimes you got to look in there and go, that was dumb, we'll do that again. What do we learn from that? How do you do public failure debriefs, post-mortems on something that failed? Project failed, it went down, you get together and go, why, how can we learn from it? Okay. Individually, personally, or structurally? Okay, good. Nikki says okay. You guys kind of go through, and you do it on all projects to say lessons learned, or do you focus in on ones that have a higher fail rate to say why? Or is a debrief a part of your natural rhythm? Every time a big project goes live, you come through, okay, lessons learned, what worked well, what didn't. Is it more of that kind of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Process improvement.
That's good. See, and there's a structural way for you to recognize your staff. on projects too. If there's no other way, if you're naturally that, okay, what's next? Having a formal meeting on your calendar for 30 minutes. What worked, what didn't, what are we gonna do to make sure that don't happen again? Those are good places to, it's on the board at that point. What works and who was responsible for it? Good job. Like those are natural, those are structural things I've had to do to make sure, otherwise I won't stop to celebrate. I'll just know in my head what failed and I won't share it organizationally, and then no one else learns. So those can be things that work traditionally. Motivation. But I disagree with some of that stuff. I think that stuff's internal, and I don't know if you can always get people there. Mancini's got a good thing about being humble and hungry. Well, I'll show that video after we take a little break here in a minute. Strategies for volitional action. Anybody ever heard this term? It's been a little bit more popular. Crossing the Rubicon. It's the idea of Evel Knievel jumping Snake River Canyon. That was for Chris. Tell him. I'll speak to him for him. All right. So the idea of once you cross a chasm, there's no going back. It's the idea. Is it Cortez? Burn ships. We're not going back. We're here. Although that story didn't end so well. Everybody died. But the idea. So the idea that how you get to this volition for action. So if you're thinking, if you get through this whole program of being urban leaders and you've got these things and you know where you want to work, identify your opportunities, create an emotional link to it, like why you need to do this thing, visualize the intent behind it, because that's what's going to have to keep you on track for motivation. Why do you really want to do this? What's it going to look like? What's the vision? Cross the Rubicon, you've got to deal with the doubts and anxieties around it. You've got to exercise conscious choice. And you've got to take personal responsibility. If you're trying to drive a new organization in a new way, you get all these things. You've also got to move your team through all of these steps and let them, as a team, take responsibility for those things to get them where you're over here. Then you got to control the context, regulate the condition, manage your emotions, and protect self-confidence. Those things work for organizations as well. Once you get them there, you have common language, you keep speaking those things, and you need to protect the confidence that this is the way we're going. You want to create it in such a way that everybody's on such the same journey together. They're not looking back for the votes. Let me talk about the votes anymore. This is the way we're going. This is what we're doing. So those are some just management techniques that are much more on the EQ side than the task-oriented types. Let's do this. You guys up for 10-minute break? All right, cool. Everybody know where the restrooms are? All that stuff? Okay, cool. Let's take 10 minutes. Nikki, do whatever you got to do at home, and we'll come back at 40 after. That sound good?
I like to get it
It's not gonna take 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
They take forever.
Tomorrow what? For what? Starting at 9? Yeah, so I'm gonna be late tomorrow. I've got 2 calendars and a book. My boss is coming in town from Salt Lake City.
You're hours ahead, so it'll be noon by the time you get here.
Well, and it turns out I may not be here. We have to just, we're officially at war, watching. We are?
Yeah.
Almost here, yeah. We did, yeah. Oh, good. They should be throwing gas on the people. Sure. Strikes. Probably the one who dropped the bombs.
Yeah.
Right, cool. No one says anything. I think Russia was involved in it.
Syria is blown up.
You're talking about Syria?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my son's 17. I was like, man, you better hope they don't maybe walking right out of school right into a war.
Yep.
Better,
Dangerous place to be.
yeah.
So.
We're locked.
Left out.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? What's the password? Sorry, no help for you.
Is that
We
the,
can't go to the bathroom, so I'm getting my Marla card.
So you can't go to the bathroom?
oh, they didn't prop the door open?
Yeah, they didn't.
Okay, I'm gonna follow you.
Now I'll have to go to the bathroom.
No, so I'm just shepherding.
I think you're allowed to, you just can't.
You're gonna Sherpa everyone across the hall and bring them back?
So Tim, I may not be here till noon tomorrow. I'm trying to juggle
Okay.
a commitment I've got with my
Checking in, how you doing?
job.
Good, just give them a potty break for them
Cool.
talking for
Perfect.
a minute. Yeah, that's fine, man.
So if I have to miss the morning, I'll have to watch it
That's fine.
on videotape
That's fine.
afterwards. I'm trying to email my boss and get someone to call me back, but
They're probably in the team meeting.
You got 5 minutes ago and they have an email that calls you back yet?
Wow.
These people.
it's crazy.
So from 1 to 3 tomorrow, did you get a chance to do the Enneagram assessment?
Yes.
Okay, good, because that's gonna be a big major piece of the debrief tomorrow. So you'll be here for that.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a volunteer recognition. I first of all, I wouldn't know them anyways. So I'm hoping my boss from Salt Lake City will come down and just tell them you all are wonderful. But
Well, you don't manage volunteers.
I don't.
No.
But her email was, I'm driving down to do an introduction of AMP.
Yeah, you kind
I don't have to.
Sure, you can use this properly.
It's you too.
Actually, it's been about 5 years on the volunteer. Getting the call in the middle of the night with help families.
You seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't
love
done
it.
that yet, and I want to do that.
Dude, just do right along.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
They said just. They said do a fire at 2 in the morning. They're gonna see what.
I'll tell you, yeah.
Like.
But I'll tell you, I'll show you that and how good your tools are. At least they were 12, 13 years ago. I don't speak a lick Spanish, and my first call was 28th Street and about the Plus. But your tools, I actually took that in my conversation. We need this for emotions. So we need these emoticon type responses when we're interviewing clients to say, what are some of the things you need? I could walk through the whole thing with that picture guide you had.
Yeah.
I could do a whole interview for people needed, even though I didn't speak Spanish. It was beautiful. So and that actually influenced some of the way we do some stuff, social service. It was great. And I think I probably still have this.
Yeah. That's really cool. And I'll tell you, people that do that are all volunteers. I was shocked.
Yeah.
They're all volunteers. I mean, the people that get deployed to natural disasters are all volunteers. And I didn't realize many states have a law that says if you are going to respond to natural disasters, your boss has to let you know.
Yes, protection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty neat.
because you're always scared, like, I'd love to go for 2 weeks.
But I can't walk away from my job, they'll fire me, right? But talking about the Red Cross in terms of its management style, flexible, everyone has input until there's a disaster. And then you have someone to report to, and that person has someone to report to. Total command change. Everything is out the door. This guy said, when all shit breaks loose, when there is a catastrophe, I'm the guy at the very top. All you gotta do is find out who you report to and don't listen to anybody else. Like, wow.
Yeah, because have you ever been in, what's gonna happen is hard. He wants you to do in his life.
I mean, they're talking,
He said, everybody has a job. Every single, my job is to make sure you got a job and you do it. He said, but for example, you know, when you get, because I said, I want to go to a disaster. He said, you're an executive, so your job is going to be more on the relationship side. I'm going to stand you next to a government official, and your job is to make sure whatever he asks for, you call me and ask me for. Do not let him pick up the phone and call the meeting in. Right. You answer every question. You keep his mouth shut, except in your ear only.
Yeah, no, it's
Crazy.
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
How you been?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. How you been? You in Florida? I am in Florida. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's really exciting.
We had the pleasure, I've been honored. We went to the national, it's the National Emergency Management Training School in Virginia. Yeah. And so the whole county leadership structure went wow, everything, and we went right on 9/11. It was intense, man. It was freaking intense. The tabletop exercises over school buses, getting people from the disaster sites to their shelters. Man, I almost went to blows with the school district guy. And you guys, is that just, but it's that real, and so being in that space in real life,
it's really, I mean, it's inspiring. I mean, they talk about things. I'm like,
so you got.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, so I mean, so in Orlando, we have more people from Puerto Rico than even in New York. I think Puerto Rico and New York, more Puerto Rican in Orlando than New York. And so we felt the hurricane. Like our school district had hired 100 bus drivers. For all thousands. So like all these kids, and we got bus drivers. I mean, it was like, what do you do when you have limited, finite resources? In the community. And then Pulse, the nightclub, and they happened right when I was one of our little moments. So now we actually, I didn't realize that Red Cross has a, what's that called? A mass casualty event. We have mass casualty experts. Yeah. They've been at Columbine, they've been at the Pulse nightclub, they've been at Route 91. Route 91, they were here. Route 91. And like 73 people from all over, that's the only, which is sad to know that. It's sad that it's even necessary these days, but amazing resource.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Because when I actually flew in October morning, I was in my plane we were flying around for an hour. I'm like, what's going on? I landed, find out what's going on. And then right to First Med, and they were in the county manager was calling major counselors. So I was like, because I've been in low orbit on those. So the first thing I did was pick up the manager over the citizen response network there in Orlando, the nightclub. I'm like, dude, you've got to call these people, see if there's expertise. Because like all helps workers here.
And it's understanding the connection of how everyone's skills can come together. So we did a big disaster preparedness training for our senior leadership, about 150 people across the country here last week. And the gentleman who runs our state's emergency management system, he said, when I started, I couldn't even spell emergency management. I didn't know really what it was. So the governor gave me that job. He said, but today, one of our strongest partners is we know, they know exactly what they're doing at all times. They may not have the resources, like we use partners. But the way we use this precision plan to, it's amazing.
It is, man. I won't even couch my words, man. It's intoxicating enough when you're in those conversations. Totally. To really get saying, this could be something I want to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
I could see spending the rest of my career in that particular space because it's so, it's episodic. It happens and you work there and you execute. I mean, I'd almost give up all the management that I've done just to do that.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, it's awesome, man. But again, just kudos, man. I'm so glad you're in this box. They needed someone good.
I'm excited. Like I said, I hope I can use my skills. They're a much different design than most nonprofits.
Yeah.
But I hope, cross my fingers, that I feel like I contribute. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't,
I got you.
So, cross my fingers.
It'll be, I mean, when it comes down to it, we all want to be in that opposite space, right? We want to feel like we're contributing to what we love, man.
Absolutely.
All right, so now you, yeah, man.
Where'd you look at?
Yeah. Who we got? Dr. Karen. All right, guys, we're gonna jump back in for our. Thanks for being patient with the break.
I got some chocolate. If anybody wants any? My travel chocolate. Years ago. Again, tortilla chips from Wendy's. They're a week old.
What I got in my, what do I have in my go bag? I got some organic hazelnut peanut butter for anybody.
Oh man, that's way too healthy.
All right.
I got a cookie. If anybody wants a chocolate chip cookie?
Man.
I was at a town for a week. This dude was like,
I like that.
no, it's from the lunches or whatnot. Just hold it out. Put it on down.
I feel like, you know how there's that one mom that has everything in the bag? Like, Alan's got this snack bag. Like, what do you have dietary restrictions? We're like,
I'm the snack bag.
all right. Hey, so we won't get through all of this piece either. My goal is just to introduce you to some concepts and things that maybe for research owners further on your own. That's good. Continual learning is very important. Reinventing leadership by Dennis and Townsend. Just some things to introduce to you. You all kind of answered some of these things in the intro, but I'm going to piggyback on Oscar's answer about I want to be happy and contributing. I want to be doing something I love that has meaning, and we're going to find more and more, especially when we have our millennials and our Zers coming into the workforce. It's about cause. It's about being a part of a story, and they have to be able to see themselves in it. It needs to have meaning for them. And so if your organization is not thinking in those ways and telling stories, you need to get there. So we start by, if we can't articulate those things for ourselves, who do I want to be? What do I want my purpose to be? If we can't have those conversations with ourselves to figure out and be able to tell our stories, when we get asked, when we're mentoring someone, they go, well, I don't know, what's your life plan? I can tell you. I may not know what organization I'm going to be with, but I can tell you exactly what it's going to have to entail for me to feel effective. And when it's not, it's time for me to go. So just think through some of these things. Here's a part of their framework. A business that's short on capital can go out and borrow money, right? A local government can do tax, get new revenue. There's ways we can bring resources in. We go land a big donor. We do things create new. But as an individual, how do you create that capital yourself? So on a scale of 1 to 5, and these are things you can either just do later, or you can scroll down if you've got paper now. 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. Ambition and drive. On a scale of 1 to 5, where are you at? Expertise in your current area. Current area of responsibility. 1 to 5, where are you at? 5 being the highest. Integrity. Where are you in that? 1 to 5. Your vision. And so I'll say it, and because this is, we'll do the nurturing teams part really more tomorrow. This is about the leading. So I need you to understand this can be vision for your team, vision organization, but this is really about your vision for yourself. Who are you as a leader? Again, I will come back and say you may disagree with me, but as a leader, you are the high water mark. The organization can never get above you. It will never outpace you. Because what you'll do is you'll inadvertently push it down. You'll keep that ability. So if your vision is not big for yourself, you just want to be in this box, your organization or your team is going to stay in that box with you, or they're going to rise up and force you out of the box. Purpose. Where are you at understanding what your purpose is? Not functional. Not that I approve leave requests or I'm the one that, does this, but your purpose, your eternal purpose. What do you think you're put here in this earth for? On a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you think you have that figured out? And effectiveness. How effective are you? When you are putting yourself to something that you're reasonably skilled at, how effective are you in doing these things? So again, these are not, I'm not going to go through and have to share these things, but these are things for your kind of check-in to make sure that your things, these things are kind of the fuel in your tank to kind of drive you through. If the average, I think the boomers, the legend group had one job career. Boomers, maybe we're going to have 1 or 2 extras. I think they said we're going to have up to 5. Millennials are going to have up to 20 different job experience contacts over their career working. Of course, that career span now went from working to 60 to working to 80 before you retire, but that's a different conversation. But you're going to have 20 different employment contacts over that time frame. They can be in different fields because, A, they want to feel purpose, they want to feel driven, they want to feel like they're making meetings, they'll leave and go find somewhere if they're not. Other more real piece of that is technology is going to change so rapidly underneath them. The jobs they were doing are not going to look the same, be the same, or even be there anymore. So I think it's really important that we look for our ambition, drive, our expertise. If we feel they're good now, but 5 years from now, are you still going to be a 5? Are you staying up on those things? Your integrity, that for me is almost the congruency test, right? Are you really walking what you say, being in that piece? High vision for yourself, high purpose for yourself, high effectiveness for yourself. Executive character, so your constructive ambition, because there can be destructive ambition. Competent expertise. No one's saying you have to be an expert in your field, but you have to know enough to bring values. And consistent values. Has anybody ever worked in an organization or for a leader where it would depend on how big the donor was as to what we consider valuable, or it depended on what the topic du jour, or hey, we may be anti tax building credit for corporations in this community, but let the Raiders come to town and we're going to throw the world at them. Things shift and change, right? How does that make you feel when you don't see that congruency? Hey, wait, I thought we were about this thing. Now all of a sudden we've shifted. It breaks trust. It can break trust. So just thinking about those things, so that congruency check. What do you stand for? Do you always stand for it? Where might you be tempted as a leader? That's one of another Mancini's books, The Temptation of Leaders. We kind of list the best things. Just what do you think a leader is? And you can reflect on that a little bit, and we'll go into it. Feedback. This is one of the biggest things I think that helps people develop, is giving them active feedback and constructive feedback. And there's some culture management tools we can talk about that we get there. But looking through this, are you confident in your ability to offer feedback in a constructive, non-threatening way? As a leader, are you confident that you can give feedback in a way that your lowest line staff will receive it from you and not feel completely threatened that you're going to lose their job? You take the time to be present and do it. You can focus on a plan's advantages, not only its flaws. I'm a worst case scenario person. It's my natural thing. It wakes up at 2 o'clock in morning. That plan against those things, but sometimes those things are helpful, sometimes not. So you focus on plans advantages as well. You voice those things, especially when your staff brings you a plan. You go, okay, no, that's stupid because you didn't think about this one thing, or do you say, hey, you guys have 5 of the 7 things necessary for success in there. Great job. Did you think about these next 2? Kind of walking in there. Are you confident of your ability to accept feedback in an appreciative, not threatening? Can somebody peer check you and not get their head in? Those are important things. Or do you have somebody else in your life? If not your organization because you're the top person, there's somebody else in your life or your circle that you still consider your mentor or a peer that comes in and go, you need to take that. The bad breath test is important. If you don't have anybody around you that will discreetly slide you a piece of gum, you need to go to circle. I'm just telling you, those are things as a leader because it becomes you get isolated to some degree as a leader. It's lonely. And you need somebody in your circle of resources that can pass that test for you. I consistently accept feedback and criticism graciously and gratefully. I can't even answer that. That's something you got to strive for. You will consistently receive it. Even if the person giving it to you is not doing it correctly, can you still be gracious, recognizing it was a risk for them to do that, especially if you're there. You have at least one person to whom I can give reflective. Have you made yourself a resource for those around you? They can come to you as a sounding board, and then you will give good feedback. That might be a check for you as well to see if you've got the resources with them. And you currently have at least one person with whom you receive that. If you have someone you can run to, get that sounding board, and they're going to give you honest feedback. So it's not quite the thing when they're sliding the gum. At least you go to this friend and go, oh, did that smell? But for your plans, these are my plans. This is how I'm thinking about attacking this. Here's my situation. I've got a seasoned 25-year employee that's just been handed to me. They're not self-aware. They don't know they don't understand their bull in a china shop. Here's how I'm thinking about approaching that. And the person's going, have you thought about this? Remember your tendency to do these things. So how are you going to mitigate that? Because I know that person. If you do what you naturally do, you're going to blow the whole thing up. You have someone you can go to and work with. Vision, a deeply held sense of where you're going. Now, organizationally, you all should have strong visions. How many people manage their vision? Okay. How many organizations have a great vision statement somewhere on a piece of letterhead, but you do what you do every day and it's not really bounced against? You right? Okay. Your vision needs to be communicated. There has to be an emotional engagement around the vision. Look, even in business licensing, you can create an emotional engagement. Some people go, oh, that's easy maybe in the helping arenas, but even in business licensing, we help keep the engine of opportunity turning in our community. We create opportunity for people. That's emotional. I like that. I create an opportunity. If we process forms and it sucks, that creates that culture of the stereotypical government counter. Right? We don't want to get there. So create an emotional connection about what you do, and then it's only sustained by coaching. Results equal vision plus action. For your own personal leadership development, this is just a challenge. I'll actually issue this as an assignment in longer classes, but for you all, I'm trying to keep it easy because I know I'm the only thing standing between you and So just do this for yourself, though. And this is something you can do at any time. Just pull us out and go, look, I need to do a one-step plan. What's the one thing I can do in the next 6 months to tangibly make a difference in my team? How am I going to relate this to the people around me? Like, what's the thing we're going to work on in my team or my organization? How am I going to relate to people? How am I going to measure that we really did it? How intentionally, let me plan before I even speak this to you, but how are we going to celebrate success when we get there? And then landmines. What are the potential obstacles? The powers and resource thing at the first one, what are those landmines? How are we going to navigate those? Think about it. You can just punch through this, and this, quite frankly, can be a real quick thing when you're doing any new thing you can do for yourself, but for yourself. There is no loyalty by way of organization to employee anymore. systemically. Pension funds are getting taken away. In Kansas just won a lawsuit in the federal appeals court that they can stop paying their pensions to people who are currently getting them. That it's no longer an employment promise and has to be honored. That's, by the way, people are really worried that's going to the Supreme Court. If it's upheld, it could be grounds for Social Security being taken away, like just blowing up, because it's got that legal precedent. They're really, you can't depend on others, I guess is my thing to say. You can't depend on your organization to improve you as a leader or take care of your learning or to meet your needs. So challenge yourself as a leader. What am I doing to develop myself for the betterment of my organization or my community? And just kind of get to that place. Self-knowledge examination. You're your own best teacher. Accept responsibility. Don't blame anybody else. You can learn anything you want to learn. Your true understanding comes from reflecting on your experiences. So, self-check. What are some things you think you need to improve yourself professionally? How can you go about getting this education? What teachers and tools and people do you need around you? And what will you do to get this knowledge? So these are some things that if you have something you want to achieve, some new thing you want to tweak about your management style, your delivery, or whatever, here's a good way for you to set up a self-plan to help manage and mitigate where your weaknesses may be. All right. There's 4 C's of trust. And you did the trust guide. There's a lot of things that go out there. I like simple. Not everything takes a 4-page report. To be considered trustworthy, there's a level of competency. So what's your competency? You need to go in, and so not to keep looking for Alan, but this is a great example because you're probably the newest person on a job in the room. Mm-hmm. So going in, people are going to be looking at your competence around what that is, right? There may be some people that go, oh, he's never been very cross. They're not going to look at the competence of leadership and business skills you bring. Some people will, some people won't. So you have to test that and understand that there may be some competence you're going to have to build for people to kind of put some of that trust. Congruency. Or do you actively hold the party line, walk the mission, do what you say you're going to do? Are you caring? People, they see you care. Like that's the number one thing that's going to get you in the door. People see that you at least care. Are you in the struggle with them? Do you acknowledge that some of this stuff just sucks? And yeah, we'll try to work on it, but I'm in it with you. And then consistency. Are you consistent in your approach and your messaging? And that's going to help build trust. These things don't come easy or natural for a lot of people. Are you hopeful? How many people are a half glass empty? Anybody?
It depends on the day.
Depends on the day? Gotcha. All right.
I hear the half glass empty.
That's right. It depends. The glass is completely full. Just some's liquid, some's air. Like everybody can be free. Are you hopeful and optimistic? So that can go too far, right? Like if you always are Pollyanna about things, and people are going to want you. Like you're not being transparent, authentic with us. So hopeful and optimistic. Be willing to take risks. That law of entropy, the law of thermodynamics. You know. A closed system stays closed on itself and dies. It has to be open to new energy, new models in order to grow and expand, but it doesn't want to do that. Nothing wants to be opened up and examined. So taking risks puts you in a place where you're naturally butting against the wall. Can you be honest with people? And is your understanding of what your team and your dynamic are going through? Where do you rate yourself on those things? All right, letting it go. Anybody struggle with delegation? Yep. Especially when you rate high on that knowledge set. I know things. It was harder to delegate. And the 24-hour news cycle, get back to me right now, makes it even more difficult sometimes. And sometimes when we do call it delegation, it's actually work dumping. Here's my to-do list that you mentioned earlier. But real delegation, what needs to be done, what people want to do, what people are confident in doing, like really thinking through, like, I've got this opportunity, this thing that needs to be done. Who in my leadership pipeline, who below me can really benefit most from taking on this assignment as a growth thing, I can work through with them on, looking at those things, that kind of space. Sometimes it might help you, but in general, Control Freaks Anonymous, is there anybody else in there? Thanks, folks. All right, really, it's scary. It can be very scary, but plus now I really hope I burned that Elsa song. Brought it back into your brain, let it go. Those who singing with me, anybody? Okay, good. You can thank you later. What are the downsides of relinquishing control?
Not get done.
Okay. What's another downside of relinquishing some control? I'm not just talking about delegating. I'm actually talking about relinquishing some control. Like taking some of my positional authority and empowering you to do something. Like really just, what's the downside of that?
Do you want to relate to it, Beth, or?
What's the old school model? What's the old school model of development tell you though? You create value by knowing or doing something that no one else knows. The minute you let that go, you're no longer valuable to the organization. That's somehow a natural tendency. That's antithetical to the way the business needs to be done these days. You're more valuable to the organization if you get other people up with you and you can lead them, because now you have a workforce of 5 around you where you're one by yourself. So there's a downside. Before I give fail, right? Those types of things. And people be honest with yourself. Am I worried about relinquishing control because I'm worried my value may dip? And that is something that we see with folks. Why they hold on to things so tightly. All right. When things hit the fan, are you control, order, predict? Are you a cop or are you an ace? Do you acknowledge, create the power? Things got to get done. You're in the 4th quarter. You don't have your fundraising goals met yet. You just lost a major donor. A new ordinance got passed, and the board wants it in play in 2 weeks, and or nothing happens. Right? Those things happen. How do you naturally react? How's your organization react?
I think most people go to.
Yeah, because it's natural, right? Because that goes to control, predictability. But you actually get more done if you can acknowledge creative power, because again, you spread your workforce. Crisis control. We were talking through the command chain on emergency management. A lot of organizations, if you work around quasi, governmental police, those types of fire, they have command structure, and those things can bleed over into your organization as well. Specialist versus generalist. As a leader, the idea of where do you value? We tend to, there's some people, like I had a county manager that told me early in my career, don't become a technocrat. Meaning don't develop one technical skill and be known for just that one thing. We need broad generalists because technocrats create silos around themselves. Those silos can't be broken. So I've held on to that. And I'm very proud to say I'm a generalist. But if you go too far with that, then you know a little about everything and not about any one particular thing, right? So you've got to balance depth with that. So how do you do that? How do you help your teams go to be deep-seated generalists?
Cross-functional training.
Okay.
Or I think sometimes if you structure your team in a way in which people have different specialties, so they have a little bit of a specialty, but then it's shared with the entire group, so then the knowledge is transferred across the group.
Okay, so you got cross-functional training, which is very specific. We're going to put you all in a room and I'll teach you different skills. There's cross-pollination, where you stack a multidisciplinary team and you all learn from each other by working with each other. So the two very different things, but both very effective. What are some other things?
That made me happy. So,
Okay.
everybody kind of has a little bit of a specialty, but everyone is also expected to know the basics of everything else.
Okay.
And then our role is to know all of them.
Everything about everything.
All of them.
Okay.
Should we take someone in a functional work area and give them a project to work on that's not in their skill set to broaden their abilities?
Yeah. How many times have you seen an employee and asked them, what are you really doing? What are you really good at? You know what? I love Excel, and we don't do enough spreadsheets around here. Says no one ever.
Exactly.
But
are totally people like that.
Yeah.
I work with them.
Okay, right, so but I don't get to do that. In my daily thing, I don't get to do that space. Look, there are a lot of people who make great MAs when we get a chance to do some of that stuff, but like the local piece of it all. And I've had great joy watching social workers move into auditing roles over the years. What? But they just found a natural affinity for thinking that way. But they were given an opportunity to make those spaces. They're exposed to projects and things. And so you can migrate people. So are you being intentional about migrating people?
It's also making me laugh because like we did this 2 weeks ago. We had our entire team list everything that goes into our summer program on the board, and he said this is a safe space to fail. Pick one.
Cool.
Like try
Very
something new.
We're excited about it.
We're
excited.
Right, because it's going to be epic one way or another, right? It's going to be an epic failure or it's going to be epic success.
It won't fail, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It was just, the show will still
No,
go
I
on,
love
so.
it.
Yeah, and that's nice.
Yeah, we start. You're not alone in any of this, but try something new. For this tiny.
Cool idea.
Yeah. Right, like we're
Wow.
us, and it's a really scary feeling to let go of that control of the stuff. But
Especially
then-
if the thing that somebody else picked is your thing.
Yeah,
you do.
your baby.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's sitting back there with heart palpitations going, that's my thing.
I know.
Like people come to me every year for that thing. That's what I do. It's what I'm known for, right? That could be a little nervous. So how do you, if someone didn't get their thing, how do you reassure them?
That's kind of the point that we're probably going to reach in the next little bit, because some things were taken, it was all done like anonymously-ish. So when it all comes out, I'm curious about whether they'll be like, but so far the people who have picked something that this is totally out of their comfort zone, they are so excited. And like, that makes me excited.
Yeah. We were sitting here, I was thinking about how to reiterate that, because I mean, we set it up well of just that, we know what your strengths are, but we don't know what all of your wants are.
Yeah.
And so pick something, and they were shy at first.
No one, it
It's
took
only
people
like
3 or 4 days, and these
You
people
can
we've
talk
had
about it.
forever. And we're like, email us individually, like you don't have to do it in a group setting. It took them a few days to even tell us that I think I might want to. No one said I want this.
So
I think I
I was thinking
Because
of
they're
ways
couching
to-
their face.
Yeah.
You're scared too.
I was trying to think while we were sitting here, as we were talking about this, of ways of reiterating what they'll gain from it, but also what skill they're bringing to it. Like, I think that you are able to bring to this will be very valuable, but you'll also learn this that you've never done before. And so, like, trying to make sure that it's very personalized for them.
So when I talk about non-monetary reward systems, you guys did not mention that. But that is a huge non-monetary reward for employees. Like I tell you, if what you're showing is we each value you so much that we're willing to, we're going to help you grow. The organization is going to put itself on the line to help you grow and explore. And even if periods will come back around next year, that will keep your core people there. That is some of those are some of the non things. That's good. Yeah, that would be actually something that you guys really should document that story.
Yeah,
You really should.
even when we shared it with another management director levels in our organization, even they were like, "You're doing
Yeah, you got to document that because that's going to be that's a 3-page white paper. No, that you can give to other people. Hey, look. So the fact that you have the ability to create a lab situation in your work environment is huge because you can do this social experiment and you can see how's this going to work, knowing that you have enough safety. There's enough confidence in that room, your companies are going to fail. Now, the one thing I would say is, because I have worst case scenario on something, someone's going to be so scared, they're going to wait till something's on fire before they come and tell you, I didn't do good.
Yeah.
So create that space to come early and tell me if you think you need help. Let us get you that. We want you to be successful in this. So that means maybe you couldn't have taken it on solo. We put some people around you. We're going to make you successful no matter what. You've got to speak up. Your one responsibility is not to nail this perfectly, but to speak often about what you need to get done. That because natural tendency is, oh my God, I asked for this. I asked for this. I did this to myself.
Yeah.
I asked for this, and I
No,
did.
that's really good.
And they're not going to come over. They're going to be scared to come back and tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so one of the outcomes. Yeah.
We'll call you at the end of August.
Yeah.
We used
We used it.
Yeah.
Sticky notes were involved.
So did you guys do that design thinking, the IDEO stuff?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Pretty awesome. Yeah,
Honestly, we learned to realize that more. We use that more.
more than you think, but the structured process, I'm totally like, how do we bring those types of innovation thinking into social programs? This whole world. All right, epic fail. So we're talking about being authentic. If you as a leader can admit even some small failure, like, hey, you know what? I gotta totally admit I violated our cultural norm of engaging. I walked down the hall and passed 15 people above, and this is an actual self-admittance. I'm not picking on you, Craig. I made this admittance in front of all staff. I walked down the hallway for the last 3 days with my face and my phone and said hi to nobody. But yet one of our cultural norms is we do this. I wasn't doing it. I'm going to publicly be a culprit, right? Because we can't do that. So I'll do better. You guys hold me accountable. You got to kind of be in that space. So you at least be sharing. They don't have to be epic things like, hey guys, I totally blew it in the decimal place in the wrong place, so the whole budget's gone. Everybody's like those types. We're not talking about. You can start with the really small things and just show that you're approaching. Because people are scared to approach you sometimes as leaders. It's just natural. So you can start with those things and just think about what kind of constructive learning experience. Next time someone admits a mistake, this is a great, I don't want to focus all on this, but you have a great learning opportunity to think about this. When someone comes, how are we going to coach them through that? How are we going to say it's okay? How are we going to make it an enjoyable experience to fail? So we all learn from it. So those are things you're going to think about. We're getting down in time, but I just want to say this is part of business work and some of the things you need to be, and this is self-reflective. This is really to go through. Everybody has an inherent bias of some sort. Actually did Harvard, I think it's Harvard, has an online test where you click and your reaction time to faces. I am actually inherently biased to old people over the age of 70 with white hair, females specifically. That came back as my greatest bias. So I maybe have some grandparent baggage I have to deal with it. I won't make that an issue here for us.
Just don't beat your grandparents.
But it's really critical for you to be willing to face that and say, what are they? Because if you can't face them, you can't then lead your organization through recognizing some of the inherent biases and things that they need to focus on. I think he said she's not coming to class tomorrow then. So. Nice. But then we'll walk through that. National Geographic, I did think did a phenomenal job recently of going, look, you take full responsibility. We portrayed people of color as servants and ignorant natives. In all of our past historical publications, we're putting it out there, we're going to talk about it. Like, at some point, your organization's got baggage, you may need to come face to face with it. Because there's the new group of workforce coming through, they want purpose, they want meaning, they want to make a difference. They also not want to let things go. They want to be transparent. Not saying you got to start that today, but you got to start that today. Burnout. So this is for you. Just do a heat check. What are some of your possible signs and symptoms of burnout? What's a surefire thing that you know someone's disengaging? Someone just give you some popcorn. What's some of the ways you know that a staff member is checking out?
They're calling in sick.
Okay. Absence.
They're snapping.
Ooh, okay. I'm not sweating. They're taking the ULD master's program. Thank you, Nikki. What are some of the signs of staff disengagement?
Oh, they don't turn their assignments in on time.
Okay.
That happened to me this week.
Chronically late with assignments. Okay.
I had to actually, I don't have a staff, but I manage so many different projects. I had to actually say, if you don't turn this in by 2 p.m. tomorrow, I will not pay you. And then I learned that, like, this person turned it in, but still have to do a lot more work on it. But it's my fault. I should have made that decision early, So I assigned this in November. I got it this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was, so I have to contract with a lot of people too. So I have to manage people that aren't
Matrix.
come every day.
Yeah.
So I had to I had to save it.
So chronically,
So that was, that was hard.
that is hard.
That was so hard. for me.
Are they late because they're trying to sabotage, or late because they're just burnt out and they're not focused when they're at work? Because there's two different pieces to that. When people start to turn to sabotage, that's a full sign that they're so far out, and you need to look for that.
Or a vendor.
Yeah.
You would think as a vendor, you don't have the ability to get burned out, right? I mean, you're flipping between projects, and so maybe they're not effective. If they've checked out, period.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, staff learn very quickly that there's no accountability, nobody asking for anything, and they can turn in subpar work at the last minute. That becomes a thing. So if your vendors aren't managed closely historically before you got them, that just made good to
Yeah,
use.
but I think that was also me too, because I was just overly sympathetic. Really. I was just. like,
So then you remember your
yeah,
constituencies,
So
right?
taking advantage
Yeah.
of that part of me.
Yeah.
I learned that a lot. I feel like this is therapy. So that happened.
That's good, though. I mean, so good self-reflection. So what are you going to do not that that's in this answer category, what are you going to do to mitigate that? What are you going to do to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, I've tried for a year actually to have patience with this vendor, but that's it now. Like I really am not going back. I'm not giving
Clear deliverable
multiple
deadline.
chance, and I'm gonna create a contract system with my vendors.
Okay.
It's going to work with deliverables.
Yeah, if you don't turn it on, because I have to answer to someone too,
Yeah.
but thank God I have like a boss that understands that these things happen and is allowing me to make those
Yeah.
difficult decisions and learning from them.
That's good. And remember, sometimes your constituency is, right? So if you're in a public sector, your taxpayers, like at some point you got to go, this is not acceptable. You're robbing the taxpayers of quality work we paid you to do. It's not going to happen. I'm going to stand up on their behalf. I mean, sometimes you just got to kind of dig in deep and remember why you're doing what you're doing and what you can put responsibility for. Take that space. So thank you for that. One more burnout sign. They tell you, I'm crispy, I'm done, I'm burnt out. Everybody picture in their mind someone who is singed around the edges in your organization.
Can you?
Talk about burnout. So think of a match being fully burned, like who's kind of already a little burnt on. You can just look and tell this person's approaching burnout. Really
Yeah,
quick.
I could tell. I was feeling that.
Okay. Well, that's my next thing, is check yourself. Make sure, because if you were burned out and you're displaying those signs and symptoms, you're going to naturally suck people into your wake, and they're going to follow suit. So just think about this. So there's a great program, Alan, that the City of Las Vegas Fire Department does. It's a citizens volunteer emergency response thing. You can go through, and City of Las Vegas Fire does it. And you can go, they put you in, show you how to go and respond, like in an earthquake, and no one can get there for 3 days, how to exit the building and show it's been searched, how many bodies were in there, how many people are alive, like all of those signs and symbols that the doors need. They do this great thing at the end. It's one of the best leadership trainings I've ever been in. It wasn't about leadership, it was about survival. It was this idea that, and we'll close with this, you walk, so take this as a metaphor for your organization or your team. You walk into a room, you're the rescue, you're the first responder. Room is filled with smoke, it is dark, these lights have fallen, there's electric lines snapping, and in the corner, you see Darcy pinned by the light over the corner, screaming. You see Brooke with a broken leg over here bleeding in the corner. I'm completely unresponsive back here. I don't know if I have a head injury or other. And smoke is happening. Everybody else in the room is barely crawling, like smoke malation's getting. And we'll add a pregnant lady over here in the corner who is behind what is now a desk on fire. Who do you address first? Knowing what you know. Darcy's pinned under a light back in the corner. Brooke's over here bleeding, obvious broken leg. You can see bone. It's gnarly. I'm over here completely unresponsive, not moving at all, face down, so no head injury. There's slow crawling people who are obviously coughing and succumbing, and then there's a pregnant lady over here, and there's a burning desk in front of her. Who is the most important person in the room?
Pregnant woman.
Anybody?
Pregnant woman.
Yourself.
You.
Yourself.
You. Why? Why?
Because you can't help anybody if you don't take care of yourself.
You have to call
If
together.
you fail in that situation, no one person's getting out, they all go in. So as a leader, you get nothing else out of the night, walk with that. You've got to worry about yourself. And in this 24-hour news cycle, get back to me now, live off your snack bags, keep going, take classes on your own time to get better because we expect you to do 60 hours of everything every day. Like, you've got to control this space for yourself. And don't depend on the self-help book section of Barnes & Noble. Like, just get in and ask yourself the hard questions and create space for yourself. If you go down, taking your team with you, your organization with you, your family with you, whoever's important around you with you. Like, you go down, they go down. Dash your responsibility. Keep yourself on your 2 feet so that you can mitigate all those situations. But if you go in blind, everybody wants to go for pregnant ladies every time, and they usually get electrocuted.